Chapter 826. Everyone had different expressions when they saw Song Jianan fall to the ground and die, especially Yen Patian. He had fought with Song Jianan for many years, but he never thought that it would end like this. He secretly rejoiced at how wise his choice was back then. Tang Zheng was indeed worthy of his investment and reliance. After all, he had the help of many mysterious experts. With that thought, Yen Patian subconsciously turned his head to look at the Empyrean fairy. This white-clothed woman's strength was something he had never seen before in his life, and it was ridiculously high. To have such a cultivation at such a young age, it was truly hard for him to imagine. He couldn't help but shake his head in disappointment. This world had really changed, and he was somewhat unfamiliar with it. Clean up the battlefield. Yen Patian put away his emotions and ordered in an orderly manner. This area was in a mess. Blood was everywhere, and there were also many corpses. This time, both sides had suffered casualties, but the enemy's casualties were even heavier, especially those with prominent identities. Tang Zheng swept his gaze across the ground and asked, "Where's Song Yu?" "Song Yu? He's gone." Yen Luyan rummaged through the ground, but there was no Song Yu at all. Tang Zheng's face darkened and said, "He actually escaped. Let's chase after him," Yen Luyan suggested. Tang Zheng shook his head. Song Yu was incomparably crafty. Who knows how long he has been running for? It was like looking for a needle in a haystack, so how could he chase after him? However, the Song family was already finished, and Song Yu was a stray dog. As long as he appeared, he would definitely be discovered, so Tang Zheng was not in a hurry. What he was concerned about was the life and death of the sword god. The sword god had flown into the distant forest, and his life and death were unknown. He immediately looked at the Empyrean fairy and asked, "How are the injuries you inflicted on the sword god?" The Empyrean fairy's expression was indifferent as she said, "He will definitely die." Hiss. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Such a simple strike was actually able to kill the sword god without a doubt. How powerful was this confidence and strength? It made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Tang Zheng believed in the Empyrean fairy's strength, but he wanted to confirm it. "I'll go and take a look." "I'll go with you." Yen Patian impatiently followed. When the two of them arrived at the small forest, it was completely empty. There was only a pool of blood left on the ground. Just now, the sword god had fallen here. It seemed like he still had a breath of life left, and had desperately escaped. But since the Empyrean fairy had already decided to end his life, Tang Zheng did not want to dwell on this issue. Yen Patian's injuries were not heavy. Looking at the blood, he looked around and asked with a sigh, "The insufferably arrogant sword god was defeated so badly. Your friend said that the sword god will definitely die. Do you think that's believable?" Yen Patian did not understand Empyrean fairy's strength, so he asked. Tang Zheng nodded solemnly. "Yes." Yen Patian was flabbergasted. The sword god was sentenced to death just like that. He sighed and asked nervously, "May I ask who that white-clothed woman is?" "Her name is Fu Yao, and she's my friend. She's staying here temporarily." Fu Yao. Yen Patian firmly remembered this name, but there were no legends about this name in the martial arts world. However, in the future, the world would definitely know that the famous sword god was killed by a white-clothed woman. When the two of them returned to the villa, everyone was busy cleaning up the battlefield. With such a huge battle, the police did not come, giving them enough time. Otherwise, it would definitely cause panic. Empyrean fairy had already returned to the villa, and the other women carefully walked out. Looking at the mess in front of them, other than Marshall, the others felt their stomachs churn, and had the urge to do evil. "Are you guys all right?" Tang Zheng saw their pale faces and hurriedly asked. The few of them stammered and shook their heads, saying that they were fine. Since the Empyrean fairy had pointed out that Tang Zheng's intention of leaving them behind was to train them, and let them adapt to this kind of scene, naturally no one would back down. Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. The impact of all of this on them was self-evident, but he didn't have any good ideas. He could only use such a crude method to teach them a lesson. "We weren't able to help you." Feng Shishir was the first to reflect on herself in shame. The others were all worried. Tang Zheng smiled faintly and said, "There's no need for you to do anything to take care of them." The few of them had resentful expressions on their faces as their gazes involuntarily landed on Yi Dingdong's body. Without a doubt, Yi Dingdong's valiant and heroic appearance had left a deep impression on them, causing them to feel ashamed of their inferiority. Yi Dingdong was also a woman, so how could she be so powerful? Helping Tang Zheng? Actually, this was not to say that they were cowards, but rather that the education they received and the environment they grew up in was different. Yi Dingdong was from a martial arts family, and had practiced martial arts since she was young. Brandishing blades and guns, fighting and killing was a common thing. Even though Yi Dingdong had never experienced this kind of situation before, she was still able to quickly adapt to it, and even burst forth with a brilliant performance. Yi Dingdong walked over, smiled sweetly at Tang Zheng, and asked naturally and gracefully, "Are you all right?" Tang Zheng shook his head. Seeing that there was a lot of blood on her body, his heart tightened and asked, "Are you all right?" Yi Dingdong lowered her head to look at herself, and said with a carefree smile, "It's just a superficial wound, not a problem. Besides, a lot of it is the blood of the enemy." Tang Zheng breathed a sigh of relief. The other women were endlessly envious, thinking that one day they would also become like her. They had long heard of the complicated relationship between Tang Zheng and Yi Dingdong, but now it seemed that they were the ones who were lagging behind. Yi Dingdong was fighting alongside Tang Zheng, but they still had to hide in the house and wait for protection. The difference between them was obvious. Many people immediately felt a sense of crisis. "Everyone, enter the house first. I'll check everyone's injuries," Tang Zheng said. "This injury is nothing much." Almost everyone was injured. It was just a matter of light and heavy, but without a doubt, Yan Potion's injuries were the heaviest. Of course, the sword god's attack was incomparable to others. "Elder Yan, let me check for you inside. Don't refuse," Tang Zheng said in a deep voice. Yan Patian helplessly nodded in agreement, and the others also entered the house one after another, leaving their subordinates to busy themselves outside. Fortunately, the villa's living room was big enough, so the dozen or so people sitting down did not seem crowded. When they saw the room full of beauties, everyone had different expressions. Yi Tianlei and Feng Xinyang looked at each other, thinking to themselves that this was truly a golden house hiding a beauty. Dingdong's competitive pressure was too great. Yi Dingdong had long known about this, but seeing the other girls return to their own houses, she still had mixed feelings. They all had rooms here, but he had nothing. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel empty. But soon, she changed her mind. This was only temporary. One day, she would also move in with her head held high. "Today, I have to thank everyone for their help. If it wasn't for all of you, it would be hard for me to imagine what kind of scene it would be." Tang Zheng cupped his fists and thanked them politely. Qin Batian was straightforward by nature. He waved his hand and said, "Young Master Tang, you are too courteous. Your matter is my matter. If someone in the capital wants to deal with you, how can I just stand by and watch?" Qin Batian had once sworn to protect Tang Zheng with his life, so Tang Zheng was rather grateful to him and nodded his head heavily to express his gratitude. Yi Tianlei's expression was resentful, pained, and embarrassed. This time he had publicly broken off his relationship with the Ye family in the capital, and in order to protect him, Yi Dingdong had killed Yi Tianming. "Tang Zheng, can I ask you for a favor?" Finally, Yi Tianlei couldn't help but ask. Tang Zheng jumped in fright and said in fear and trepidation, "Uncle Yi, you are asking me too much. If there is anything, just say it. I will definitely do it." Yi Tianlei had done everything he could to help Tang Zheng, and Tang Zheng was very grateful. Moreover, he had a relationship with Yi Dingdong, so it was reasonable for him to agree to Yi Tianlei's request. You also saw what happened today. The Ye family, the Song family, and the Chu family worked together to deal with you. Of course, the Ye family is your enemy. If you want to deal with the Ye family, of course there will be no problem, but, after all, I am from the Ye family. Moreover, my elder brother is also dead, and the Ye family has suffered a great loss. It can be considered as a lesson learned. Can you let them off this time?" Yi Tianlei asked nervously. In fact, he was a little embarrassed to make such a request. After all, the Ye family and Tang Zheng had completely fallen out, and were enemies of life and death. This request was a little difficult. However, Yi Tianlei had deep feelings for the Ye family. Although the other party was heartless and unjust, he couldn't do that, so he hoped to fight for a chance for them to survive. Especially after he saw how Tang Zheng dealt with the Song family. Even Song Jianan couldn't escape death. He was deeply afraid that Tang Zheng would take advantage of the victory to pursue and destroy the Ye family in the capital. When he said this, Yi Dingdang was the first to voice her dissatisfaction. She angrily retorted, "Dad, they disregarded our family and wanted to kill you. Is there a need for you to plead for them?" Yi Tianlei said embarrassedly, "But after all, I am from the Ye family." You were already expelled from the Ye family back then. After so many years, have they ever cared about you or us? Do we have to be so considerate of them? Ding dang. Feng Xingyang couldn't stand it anymore. Stop talking. She knew her husband best. Yi Tianlei was loyal and righteous. Although he had left the Ye family, his feelings were still there. If he didn't plead for mercy for the Ye family, then he wouldn't be the real him. Everyone looked at Tang Zheng in unison. The life and death of the Ye family in the capital were all in his hands. How would he choose? Of course, Tang Zheng understood the harm of the Ye family. However, Yi Tianlei was pleading for mercy for the Ye family. If he rejected, wouldn't it hurt his feelings? Moreover, Yi Tianlei's identity was special. He had to consider their feelings. After this battle, the Ye family's vitality has been greatly damaged. Although they hate me, they won't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, the Song family will be their example. Tang Zheng thought to himself. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. He thought of another problem. If the Song family and the Chu family were finished, the government would be very happy. They would be impatient to take over their businesses. Then of the 4 major families in the capital, only the Ye family and the Yan family would be left. The pressure on the government would be greatly reduced. However, if the Ye family was destroyed, only the Yan family would be left. How would the government deal with the only remaining Yan family? Get rid of them quickly. Tang Zheng immediately thought of this word. The government would definitely not allow the situation of the 4 major families to arise again. Therefore, if only the Yan family was left, then they would definitely get rid of them without hesitation. After all, the influence of one family was much smaller. If there was still the Ye family, then the government would definitely be afraid and wouldn't dare to act rashly. Chapter 827. Seeing that everyone was looking at him with burning gazes, Tang Zheng muttered to himself, "Uncle Yi has pleaded for mercy, so I will naturally agree. As long as the Ye family in the capital no longer provokes me, I can spare them this time." Hearing that, Yi Tianlei was wild with joy, and hurriedly thanked him. "Tang Zheng, thank you so much." Although many people thought that this was too risky, Tang Zheng had already made his decision, and they could not change it. However, many people were very touched. After all, Tang Zheng cared a lot about their feelings, and even took the risk to agree to Yi Tianlei's request. Yi Dingdang was indignant. She wanted to say something but hesitated. But looking at her father's expression, she swallowed her complaints back into her stomach. "Elder Yan, let me check your injuries first." Seeing that Yan Patian was exhausted, Tang Zheng hurriedly placed his hands on his wrist, and his heart could not help but tremble. In the battle with the sword god, Elder Yan was severely injured, and it was mainly internal injuries. If he was not careful, it would affect his future cultivation. This injury was caused by him, so Tang Zheng naturally could not stay out of it. Thus, he took out a 9 transformation soul return pill and said, "Elder Yan, after consuming this pill, your injuries will be fine." The 9 transformation soul return pill was extremely precious, but in order to treat Elder Yan's injuries, he would not be stingy. Yan Patian had just witnessed the effects of the 9 transformation soul return pill with his own eyes. He subconsciously looked at Tang Zheng's hands, which had long since recovered to its original state. He understood that this was a healing panacea and said excitedly, "My injuries will be fine after recuperating for a period of time. This medicine is too precious." Yan Patian had an extremely good relationship with the King of Medicine, but he had never seen the King of Medicine concoct such a pill, so he guessed that it must have been concocted by Tang Zheng using a cultivator's methods. Tang Zheng shook his head. This medicine is used to treat injuries. Although it is precious, it is not a problem. Elder Yan, please do not decline. Then. All right. Yan Patian happily took it and swallowed it. Immediately, a strong vitality burst forth from the pill, and his internal injuries were quickly healed. Even the small wounds on his body were healed. He personally felt the miraculous effects of this medicine and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He exclaimed, "This is too mysterious." He stood up and moved his muscles and bones. He actually felt that his condition was better than before the battle. Moreover, that powerful vitality had caused many changes to his body. He was already old, and his bodily functions were deteriorating little by little. However, that vitality changed this situation, allowing his body to return to its middle-aged state. Tang Zheng, thank you so much. He couldn't help but grab Tang Zheng's hand and nodded his thanks. Tang Zheng faintly smiled. The 9 transformation soul restoration pill was far too rare, or else he would have gifted everyone one. Elder Yan, you were injured because of me. This is what I should do. Actually, I still took advantage of you this time. Although I put in a lot of effort, my gains are far greater than this. Yan Patian said sincerely. He was already old, and his bodily functions had deteriorated severely. Although he was already a grandmaster martial artist, it was extremely difficult for him to advance any further. His cultivation showed signs of stagnation. However, after consuming the 9 transformation soul restoration pill, his bodily functions had almost recovered to his middle-aged state, and the cultivation shackles had been broken. Naturally, he had the chance to break through to a higher level of cultivation. Furthermore, the mysterious energy that Tang Zheng had injected into his body had caused his dragon form technique to advance by leaps and bounds. This was something that he did not even dare to think about, so this time, he could be considered to have gained a lot. When everyone heard this, they looked at Yan Patian suspiciously, guessing that his so-called harvest was probably the pill from before. They couldn't help but envy him. This time we have won a great victory. The Song and Chu families are almost finished. Therefore, we have to discuss how to seize more benefits for ourselves as quickly as possible. They are like 2 elephants. No matter how much we eat, they will benefit us greatly. Tang Zheng said in a deep voice. After the battle was over, they would naturally share the benefits. Taking advantage of the fact that the authorities had yet to fully react, they had to seize this opportunity to fight for more benefits for themselves. Otherwise, the opportunity would be fleeting. At that time, everything would belong to the country, and it would be impossible for them to obtain benefits from it. Everyone's expression immediately became excited, especially Yan Qishan and Qin Batian. The Yan family was the strongest family to begin with, and if they were to take another step forward, their strength would reach another level. As for Qin Batian, his strength was not weak either, but compared to the other great families he was still lacking. With this opportunity, the Qin family would truly rise, and perhaps a new family would be born. This matter was simply a miracle to him. Of course, Qin Batian was also an ambitious person. He had always had a dream in the depths of his heart, and that was to personally create a Qin family like the other great families, and pass it down from generation to generation. However, his foundation was not enough, and his strength was still shallow. All of this was just a daydream. Now it seemed that all of this was not an illusion. Under the influence of Tang Zheng, all of this was approaching him at a fast pace. Both the Song and Chu families fell in your hands, so of course all of these benefits belong to you. Yan Patian said magnanimously. The 9 transformation soul return pill, and the dragon chi had already allowed him to reap a lot of benefits. He was not greedy, so he took the initiative to give up this portion of the benefits. Tang Zheng shook his head. This is the result of everyone's joint efforts, so everyone deserves it, so don't refuse. Tang Zheng, you are generous, so if we continue to decline, it will seem like we are being overly sentimental. However, the majority of it is naturally yours, and your company is rapidly rising. With these resources, you can develop even faster and become even stronger. Yan Patian said. Tang Zheng did not decline pretentiously, and nodded in agreement. However, all of this was a business operation, and he was not familiar with it, so he handed it all over to Mu Hongyan. As a result, a few forces immediately told him to operate, dividing up the Song and Chu families. Tangzheng, there is one more thing that I must remind you of. Since you all say that the sword god will definitely die, but he is after all the leader of the sword pavilion, and this matter is of great importance. I wonder what kind of power he has behind him. And the death of the sword god is not the end, but the entire body is affected. I wonder how many more things will happen, so you have to be on guard against them. Yen Patian was very experienced. He could see through the essence of the matter with a single glance, and warned solemnly. Tangzheng nodded his head. He knew more than Yen Patian, and knew that behind the sword pavilion was the Azure Dragon Palace. He had no choice but to think about how this mysterious power and the mysterious High Lord would react. If the Azure Dragon Palace were to make things difficult for him, how should he deal with it? He subconsciously looked towards the Empyrean Fairy's room. Without a doubt, he had no choice but to place his hopes on the Empyrean Fairy. But what if the Empyrean Fairy left him in the future? Therefore, forging iron required one's own strength. The safest way was to continue to raise one's own strength. Everyone followed his gaze and looked towards the tightly shut door. They knew that the white-clothed woman who had killed the sword god was inside. Without a doubt, the appearance of the Empyrean Fairy was one of the biggest shocks of the day, allowing them to truly understand what it meant by there was always someone better than them. Yen Patian had been suppressing his curiosity and did not ask, but Feng Xinyang's fiery personality could not help but ask directly. Little handsome brother, who exactly is that lady? Even Tangzheng himself was not clear about the origins of the Empyrean Fairy, and said honestly, Aunt Feng, I really don't know where she came from. She is only temporarily staying here. As for her cultivation, even I am not clear. In short, she is very powerful. Feng Xinyang curled his lips and said, I wonder where you found such a powerful girl. Feng Xinyang could not help but feel that the pressure of her daughter's competition was too great. Of course, she mistakenly thought that the Empyrean Fairy was also Tangzheng's confidant. Seeing that Tangzheng could not say anything, everyone was preparing to leave. Suddenly, Tangzheng's pupils constricted as he looked out the door, his eyelids twitching. Someone's coming. Yen Patian also looked out the door at the same time and exclaimed. Seeing that everyone was nervous, Tangzheng waved his hand, indicating that everyone should not worry. He walked out and saw a person walking into the courtyard in the blink of an eye. The person who came looked around the battlefield. Many people were still busy cleaning up the battlefield. The corpses had already been moved away, but the ground was still a mess. He slightly frowned, looked at Tangzheng, and then looked at the people around him and said, Tangzheng, come with me. Number 2. Tangzheng and Yen Patian exclaimed at the same time. This person was the chief's personal guard. Number 2. A mysterious person who would not easily appear. Yen Patian had only met him once many years ago. Tangzheng knew number 2, so he naturally knew that his identity was special. The others were confused. Who was this person? Why was his name so strange, called number 2? Number 2's tone was old-fashioned and stiff, making people feel a bit hostile. Feng Xinyang was eager to protect her child. She directly stood in front of Tangzheng and said, Little handsome brother, this person is not simple, be careful. Tangzheng nodded lightly, and said to number 2, May I ask what's the matter? You've caused such a huge disaster this time. And you still dare to ask about it? Number 2's tone was not good. What Tangzheng had done this time was indeed out of his expectations. After all, he had just gotten rid of Xingfeng a while ago, which made the authorities extremely dissatisfied. However, it had only been a few days, and he had done such a huge thing right under their noses. How could it not be shocking? Tangzheng expected that the authorities would find him sooner or later, but he did not expect their reaction to be so fast. He pointed to the battlefield and said indifferently, This is not what I thought, and is not under my control. You saw it too, this is my residence. Someone is trying to do something to me. I am only trying to protect my life and counterattack. After all, this was the capital, and the authorities were extremely powerful. Tangzheng naturally could not cause their counterattack, otherwise, things would be terrible. That was why he gave an explanation. It's useless for you to say this to me. Let's talk about it when we get there. Number 2 did not appreciate his kindness and continued to speak coldly. We can't go, we're not friendly. Feng Xinyang advised, and the others also nodded in agreement. Only Yen Patian had a serious expression, and reminded him. I'm afraid number 2 is passing on that person's words. I know, I'll go with him. Don't worry, this is within my expectations. You guys should hurry up and implement what we just discussed. There's not much time left. Tang Zheng warned. Yen Patian immediately understood that the authorities would definitely interfere, and had to act before them. Thus he entrusted him with the task. Then you should be more careful. Chapter 828. Sword God slowly woke up, and saw that he was lying in a broken room. There was a person squatting not far away. His clothes were stained with blood, and his head was buried in his knees as he squatted on the ground. Sword God placed his hands on the ground and tried to stand up, but he felt his body go soft. With a put-ong sound, he fell to the ground again. That person was suddenly startled like a bird startled by the twang of a bough. His eyes were filled with fear and his handsome appearance had long been replaced by fear. This person was the escaped Songyu. Master. Seeing Sword God wake up, Songyu quickly came over and supported Sword God. Sword God was injured and his aura was weak. He was just like an ordinary old man. He was still holding half of the nameless sword, and a large part of his chest was caved in. His face was pale and his aura was weak. The Sword God raised his eyelids. When he saw Songyu, his expression was particularly complicated. This time, the Song family had an unavoidable responsibility for the failure of the mission. Toward Songyu, he naturally would not be amiable. He coldly said, "Where are we?" "Master, I saved you. We have already escaped from that place. This is a rural area in the suburbs. No one can find us." Young Master Song would never set foot in this kind of dirty and messy place before. However, in order to escape, he had no choice but to come here. "Where are the others?" Sword God asked. Song Yu's eyes turned red and he began to cry. "Woo, Master, my grandfather and father are both dead. The others either died or escaped. I don't know." This time, he came to kill Tang Zheng with full confidence. He never expected that things would turn out like this. He was completely defeated, and even Sword God was heavily injured. Sword God's expression darkened. Without a doubt, this was the most miserable time since he started cultivating. However, when he saw Songyu, who was usually insufferably arrogant, crying like a woman, Sword God Wuming was furious. He shouted angrily, "You're a man, yet you're crying like a woman." Songyu's crying stopped abruptly as she looked at the Sword God in silence. If it weren't for your Song family, how could I have become like this?" The sword deity was furious. Songyu immediately buried her head in her chest, but her hands were clenched into fists. Her family was ruined, and her master still wanted to blame her. It was too much. However, the Sword God's prestige was deeply rooted in his heart, so he didn't dare to refute. If he wanted revenge, he could only rely on the Sword God, so he said, "Shurzuan, are we going to give up just like that? Not only did he hurt you, but he also destroyed my family. We must take revenge." Cough cough. The God of Swords coughed violently and said weakly, "Revenge? Of course we have to take revenge." However, his eyes dimmed. These two words were easy to say, but it was extremely difficult to carry out. The God of Swords was very clear about his own injuries and knew that he would not live for long. He had no idea who that white-clothed woman was, and he was afraid that even the High Lord did not know. This matter was too big, and he had no choice but to take it seriously. He was anxious to pass this information back, but he couldn't hold on until he returned to Sword Pavilion. But before he died, he had to figure out one thing, and that was the truth behind Sword 13's death. Originally, he didn't believe what Tang Zheng said, but things were different now. When he recalled the scene at that time, he couldn't help but have doubts. Tang Zheng had the white-clothed woman's help, so there was no need to fabricate a lie. Moreover, the Song family's reaction was too intense and too strange. Now that he thought about it, there were many things that didn't make sense. Sword 13 was his most valued disciple. Even if he didn't have long to live, he still wanted to figure out the ins and outs of the matter. Disciple, let me ask you something. You must tell me honestly. The God of Swords asked in a deep voice. Song Yu's heart thumped as she had a bad premonition. She asked nervously, "What is it?" The God of Swords looked at Song Yu with a burning gaze. Although he didn't have long to live, his gaze was as sharp as the edge of a sword. Song Yu still couldn't look straight at him. He asked firmly, "How did your eldest senior brother, Sword 13, die?" Song Yu panicked and said hesitantly, "Master, didn't you already know that eldest senior brother? Wasn't he killed by Tangjung?" "Is that so?" the God of Swords asked. This. Song Yu panicked and hesitated for a long time before nodding hesitantly. "Yes." Nonsense. Although the God of Swords and Song Yu hadn't been together for a long time, he still understood him. Looking at him like this, how could he not know that he was lying? Immediately he believed what Tangjung said. The death of his eldest disciple was probably related to the Song family. "Do you still want to hide it? Raise your head and look into my eyes. Tell me, is what Tangjung said true? You didn't come out and let Sword 13 go out alone?" The God of Swords asked fiercely. Song Yu was so scared that her soul was about to fly away. She knelt on the ground and cried. "Yes." The God of Swords' eyes widened. His breathing quickened and he coughed nonstop. So this was the reason for the death of his eldest disciple. The Song family hid and pushed Sword 13 out. Although Sword 13's attainments in swordsmanship were extremely high, he had one thing in common with the God of Swords, and that was that he loved the sword as if he was infatuated. He wasn't very smart about the ways of the world, so he was tricked by the Song family. "Master, what's wrong?" Seeing that the God of Swords was coughing nonstop, Song Yu hurriedly asked. The God of Swords finally stopped coughing. He looked fiercely at Song Yu and said, "I really regret taking you in as my disciple. Your Song family actually caused the death of Sword 13. The Song family brought all of this upon themselves. If I wasn't injured, I'm afraid that just because of this, I wouldn't have let your Song family have an easy time." The God of Swords hated evil as if it was his enemy, and didn't give Song Yu any face at all. Song Yu was shocked. If the God of Swords wanted to destroy the Song family, even if there were 10 Song family members, they wouldn't be his match. Immediately, Song Yu's heart was filled with anger. She couldn't help but clench her fists even tighter. She also gritted her teeth, and a faint killing intent flashed in her eyes. But he didn't dare do anything. The reputation of the God of Swords had long since been deeply ingrained in his bones. He didn't dare offend his superior at all. "Master, calm your anger. We had no choice but to do this. If it wasn't for Tangjung pressuring us step by step, we wouldn't have done this." Song Yu took a deep breath, suppressed the hundreds and thousands of twists and turns in her heart, and explained pitifully, "Humph. This is the people of your large families. All of them are sinister and cunning. They only know how to sacrifice others to protect themselves. They're extremely despicable." The God of Swords had an extremely deep relationship with Sword 13's master and disciple, and he still continued to rattle on angrily. Song Yu's expression became extremely unsightly. She was submissive and didn't know how to reply. After a long time, the God of Swords' anger calmed down slightly, and he said, "Raise your head, look at me, and listen to my orders." Song Yu raised her head nervously, and she was shocked when she saw that the God of Swords' face had become even paler, as if he was a dead person. The God of Swords trembled as he took out a command token from his bosom, and he said, "Return to the Sword Pavilion and bring this command token to your second senior brother. Tell him that from now on, he's the successor of the Sword Pavilion, and he must lead the Sword Pavilion to develop and strengthen step by step." Song Yu was dumbstruck as he looked at the command token. He recognized that this was the command token of the master of the Sword Pavilion. With this command token, everyone in the Sword Pavilion had to listen to his orders. Master actually wants to pass the position to second senior brother. Could it be that his injuries? Song Yu was shocked in her heart, and she looked at the God of Swords with a burning gaze, and she felt that his condition was extremely bad. So she probed. "Master, you're still alive, so why are you passing the position to second senior brother? With your leadership, our sword pavilion can become even stronger. The god of swords' eyes dimmed and he sighed. I can't hold on anymore. That white-clothed woman is too powerful. That attack directly cut off my vitality. If it wasn't for my profound cultivation, I'm afraid that I wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Song Yu's face changed. She's that powerful? Yes, she's too powerful. When you return, you must tell this news to the Honorable Lord. You must ask the Honorable Lord to pay attention to this person. The god of swords urged. Honorable Lord. Song Yu's heart skipped a beat. He had only heard of the Honorable Lord's name, but he had never seen him in person. But he knew that this person was the person behind the sword pavilion, and everyone in the sword pavilion, including the god of swords, had to listen to his orders. So Song Yu was both curious and in awe of the Honorable Lord. There was actually someone in this world that could make the god of swords bow to him. Just how powerful was this person? Song Yu couldn't imagine. Yes, although you haven't seen the Honorable Lord before, you will definitely have the opportunity to see him when you return this time. You must be respectful to the Honorable Lord, and you must carry out any orders of the Honorable Lord. Do you hear me? Yes. Master, you really can't hold on anymore? Yes, I can't hold on anymore. I never thought that I would end up like this after roaming unhindered for my entire life. The god of swords sighed and took out another sword manual. On the cover, the words, Ninth Heaven Galaxy Fall were written. Song Yu's heart jumped wildly. He was very clear that this was the most powerful sword technique that his master was most proud of. He had relied on this sword technique to win against Tangzheng. Could it be that master wanted to pass this sword technique down to him? Song Yu's little heart was incomparably excited, and his face flushed red. Unexpectedly, the god of swords' next sentence caused his heart to fall to the bottom of the valley, and his face immediately froze. Give this Ninth Heaven Galaxy Fall sword technique to your second senior brother. There are many of my comprehensions of sword techniques in it. Let your second senior brother properly comprehend and cultivate it, and strive to achieve great success as soon as possible. It's not for me? Song Yu asked in disappointment. Your Song family caused the death of Sword 13, and I was also implicated because of this. Do you still want me to pass down my lifelong knowledge to you? Wishful thinking. The god of swords reprimanded mercilessly. Normally, he would also reprimand his disciples like this, and no one dared to talk back. Therefore, this habit had been formed, and even if his life was hanging by a thread, he could not change it. Song Yu was furious, and thought to himself, you're already at death's door, and you still want to reprimand me like this? Moreover, you're so biased, giving everything to second senior brother, and I have nothing. Unfair, unfair. He shouted in his heart, and his expression became extremely unsightly. The god of swords looked at him suspiciously and asked, Did you hear what I said? Give everything to your second senior brother. Song Yu suddenly roared and said, If I give him everything, then what do I have? I'm not your messenger. I didn't punish you, and that's already considering our relationship as master and disciple. Do you still want to ask for more? The god of swords flew into a rage. Haha, you're about to die, and only I know what you said. I said that I'm the next master of the sword pavilion, and second senior brother. You can only listen to my orders. Song Yu suddenly laughed, and the madness in his eyes was difficult to conceal. The god of swords' heart thumped and said, You dare not listen to my orders. This is deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors. Haha, you're already at death's door, so what if I deceive my master and destroy your ancestors? Since you've said so, then I'll let you experience what it means to truly deceive your master and destroy your ancestors. Song Yu's killing intent erupted, and he suddenly grabbed the god of swords' neck, and used all his strength to choke him. You evil disciple, deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors. The god of swords was already at the end of his life, and he was unable to catch his breath. He struggled weakly for a few times, and his eyes were wide open as he breathed his last. Chapter 829. Tangzheng once again stepped into the courtyard house that represented power, and many auras in the dark firmly locked onto him. It was clear that his actions this time had caused the officials to be even more fearful. He walked in casually, but this time he did not go to the study. Instead, he went to the living room. Even number 2 did not leave. He stood respectfully behind the bureau chief. As for those auras in the dark, they did not disappear. They were obviously guarding against him. His actions had completely exceeded the control of the government. They had to be on guard. The bureau chief's face was gloomy, as if dark clouds were pressing down on the sky. He looked at Tang Jung sternly and said, "You really can't stop for even a day. This time, even the Song and Chu families have fallen in your hands." The other party went straight to the point. Tang Jung did not beat around the bush and said directly, "The bureau chief is very observant. Naturally, you know what happened this time. I am at home. These people came to kill me. I can't just stretch my neck and ask them to do it, right? Humph, didn't you promise me that you will not stir up trouble in Beijing?" The bureau chief questioned. Tang Jung said calmly, "I didn't stir up trouble. I had no choice." "Whatever you say makes sense. Whether it makes sense or not, the bureau chief will judge. Moreover, the biggest beneficiary of this incident is the country, isn't it?" Tang Jung asked with a smile. The bureau chief was stunned and fell silent. This sentence hit the nail on the head. Although the bureau chief was very angry with Tang Zheng's actions, he also understood that this was very beneficial to the country. They had long wanted to deal with the big families. However, the government could not act without restraint. Because of this, they did not dare to take action. "I did what the country could not do. I am a meritorious person," Tang Zheng joked. The bureau chief snorted and said, "Meritorious person? Humph, do you know how serious the consequences are? Is it really that serious? I believe that the country will definitely find a way to calm the situation and maximize its own benefits." Tang Zheng went straight to the point. Every sentence hit the nail on the head, making the bureau chief very passive. The bureau chief understood that he had seen everything clearly, so he couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. Although his words were full of arrogance, he wouldn't fly into a rage just because of that. In fact, in retrospect, Tang Zheng's series of actions were not harmful to the country at all. Instead, he helped the country eliminate a threat. However, he was free and undisciplined in his actions, which gave the chief a headache. The chief wanted to use this opportunity to teach him a lesson so that he wouldn't cause any more trouble. "You sure have a glib tongue. You make it sound so easy." The bureau chief still didn't give him a good look. "Not to mention the Song and Chu families, even the sword god was defeated by you. Who exactly is that woman in white, and what is her relationship with you?" This was the main point. There was a super expert like the white-clothed woman in the capital, which made him feel uneasy. He also wanted to see the face of the heroine, but his subordinates kept dissuading him. Finally, he gave up the idea. Even the sword god wasn't a match for the white-clothed woman. If she was brought here, even if there were hidden experts protecting her, the bureau chief would still be in danger. Therefore, they couldn't let the bureau chief take the risk. However, finding out the background of the white-clothed woman was a top priority. After all, there was such a powerful person hidden in the capital, which was a hidden danger. Tang Zheng was very meticulous. Seeing the bureau chief take the initiative to mention the Empyrean fairy, he understood his worries. However, the Empyrean fairy's background was mysterious, and it was related to Qin Shi Huang. Of course, he couldn't tell the truth. Therefore, he pondered for a moment and said, "This person's name is Fu Yao. I met her by accident. As for her background, she always kept it a secret, so I don't know." Seeing him evade everything, how could the bureau chief easily believe him? His face darkened and said, "She lives in your house and helped you fight off the enemy. You say you don't know her background. Hee, do you think you are lying to a 3-year-old child?" Tang Zheng's expression didn't change. He said unmoved, "I really don't know. As for why she lives in my house, maybe it's because we are both cultivators." The Empyrean fairy's identity as a cultivator wasn't a secret. Therefore, he admitted it without hesitation. "You are not the only cultivator in this world. Why doesn't she live in someone else's house, but yours?" the bureau chief asked. Tang Zheng shrugged. "I don't know about that." Seeing that he wasn't afraid of boiling water, the bureau chief couldn't do anything. He couldn't force him. However, the bureau chief didn't give up and continued to ask, "What is her cultivation level?" Tang Zheng sighed and said, "I really don't know." This was the truth. He also wanted to know the Empyrean fairy's cultivation level. However, she didn't tell him. He couldn't do anything about it. The bureau chief raised his thick eyebrows and said angrily, "You don't know anything. What do you want to do?" "I don't want to do anything. I just want to live a quiet life." The bureau chief was very dignified, but he couldn't oppress Tang Zheng. The bureau chief's breathing also became hurried. This time he specially invited Tang Zheng here. Other than to beat him up, the most important reason was to find out more about the woman in white. Now he only knew that she was called Fu Yao. He didn't know anything else. This made him very depressed and angry. However, facing Tang Zheng, no matter how angry he was, he couldn't vent it. He was like a ball of cotton. When he punched him, he was soft and didn't have any place to exert force. The bureau chief stared at Tang Zheng. Seeing that his expression was as calm as a rock, he knew that he couldn't get anything out of him. Therefore, he changed the topic and said, "The sword god was defeated. He definitely won't let this go. How are you going to deal with this?" "I have to correct you. The sword god wasn't defeated. He was seriously injured and will definitely die." Tang Zheng corrected him. "What? The sword god will definitely die?" The bureau chief's eyelids twitched. He held the armrest of the chair with both hands and almost stood up in shock. Number 2 was also shocked. He looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. However, looking at his calm and confident expression, it was obvious that he wasn't lying. Tang Zheng had already expected their reaction. After all, the sword god was famous, so he didn't think that he would die so easily. He lightly nodded his head. "Yes, this is Fu Yao's judgment. I believe in her judgment. She killed the sword god so easily." The bureau chief was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Tang Zheng nodded heavily. The bureau chief should know that the Azure Dragon Palace is behind the sword god. This is the target we need to guard against. The Azure Dragon Palace has always been mysterious. The Azure Dragon Palace. The bureau chief's eyes twitched. Although the Azure Dragon Palace is mysterious, they abide by the rules, unlike you who always break the rules. Haha, does the Azure Dragon Palace really abide by the rules? I don't think so. Tang Zheng smiled disapprovingly. Since the country is so afraid of the big clans, isn't it worried about the Azure Dragon Palace? The martial arts organization Li Palace and the Azure Dragon Palace were 3 big mysterious organizations. If they caused trouble, it would be extremely dangerous. They were the ones the country should be wary of. However, the country had always let them do as they pleased. This made Tang Zheng somewhat suspicious. "You think the Azure Dragon Palace will come to the capital to avenge the sword god?" the bureau chief asked. "I can't rule out this possibility." Tang Zheng stared at the bureau chief with a burning gaze. "When that time comes, I'm afraid the world will really turn upside down. If the Azure Dragon Palace came to avenge him, Tang Zheng would of course use all his skills and fight to the death. When that time comes, the battle wouldn't be as simple as this one. The momentum would definitely be greater, and the range of influence would be wider. The shock and impact on the ordinary people would also be greater. Moreover, for something like this to happen in the capital, it wouldn't be a glorious thing for the country." Tang Zheng made it clear in advance so that the government wouldn't think that it was all his fault. "You don't have to worry about this. If the Azure Dragon Palace dares to come to the capital, then we naturally won't sit idly by," the bureau chief said solemnly. Tang Zheng looked at him suspiciously. Could it be that the country had some method to deal with the Azure Dragon Palace? But even if he asked, the other party definitely wouldn't say it out loud. He simply didn't ask and said, "That's for the best." As long as the Azure Dragon Palace didn't come to the capital, then the woman by his side would at least be safe. "If there's nothing else, then I'll take my leave," Tang Zheng said. The bureau chief looked at him sternly and said, "Calm down. If you continue to cause trouble, it won't be so easy to get away with it." Tang Zheng understood that if it wasn't for the fact that the country could profit from this and didn't harm the government's interests, It wouldn't be so easy for Tang Zheng to escape so easily. In short, Tang Zheng's actions didn't touch the country's bottom line. In fact, the country even profited from it. This was the reason why the balance between the two sides wasn't broken. Number 2 sent Tang Zheng away. The bureau chief returned to the study. There was a person sitting lazily on the chair, wearing a mask, the lord of the Azure Dragon Palace. He was actually also in the capital. If Tang Zheng knew, he would definitely be very surprised and even afraid. If the lord of the Azure Dragon Palace had participated in this battle, the outcome would have been uncertain. The bureau chief looked at the lord with shining eyes and said, "The sword god is already dead." The lord's eyes flickered slightly, but he said calmly, "The sword god was only one step away from the martial king realm, but he stopped here. What a pity." "Aren't you surprised and angry?" the bureau chief asked curiously. The lord said indifferently, "I'm a little surprised. I didn't expect that without Tian Chanzi by his side, Tang Zheng would have the help of a woman in white. I'm afraid he didn't tell you who she was, right?" "You guessed correctly. He's tight-lipped. It's not easy to get information from him." The bureau chief paused. "But why didn't you make a move this time? How can a mere Song family be worthy of me making a move? Moreover, this time was also out of my expectations." "Haha, there are times when you make a mistake," the bureau chief said with interest. "You lost such a great general. What are you going to do?" The lord smiled meaningfully and didn't answer. "No matter what your reaction is, the capital is the center of the country. The eyes of the whole world are watching here. There can't be a big mess, understand?" the bureau chief said in a deep voice. The lord looked at him deeply and said, "You want me to wait for Tang Zheng to leave the capital before killing him?" Chapter 830. The bureau chief looked deeply at the lord and said, "Don't tell me you won't take revenge for the sword god?" The lord did not answer, but instead asked, "Tang Zheng has helped you a lot. Why do you want to get rid of him?" The bureau chief's mood was very complicated. Tang Zheng had repeatedly violated his will, and was a restless chess piece. Furthermore, he was getting stronger and stronger, and gradually got out of his control. If this kind of person was used well, it would be of great benefit. If not, it would be bad or even backfire. This time, he destroyed the Song and Chu families, and his power would definitely increase greatly. It was unknown whether he would follow in the footsteps of the other big families, and develop into a new family. As a superior, he naturally had to guard against such a situation. Therefore, the bureau chief's heart was very conflicted. Seeing that the lord went straight to the point, he muttered, "Tang Zheng is still a good young man. I am worried that you will kill him." The lord smiled mysteriously. "You don't have to worry, he can't die yet, he is of great use." The bureau chief raised his eyebrows and said, "What's the use?" The lord was silent. Seeing that he couldn't get an answer, the bureau chief said, "It's good that you don't touch him. Then you can live in peace." "Live in peace?" The lord smiled meaningfully, his figure flashed, and suddenly disappeared from the study room. The bureau chief looked at the empty study room, lowered his head and fell into deep thought. In the following period of time, the capital was calm, and Tang Zheng's forces quickly divided up the forces of the Song and Chu families. However, the official reaction was also very fast, and within a few days, they also began to collect the remaining forces of the two families on a large scale. Tang Zheng's side chose to withdraw, but they had already eaten their fill, and had reaped a lot of benefits. Song Yu disappeared and never appeared in the capital again. As for Tang Zheng's name, many people wanted to hug his thigh, but they had no way to do so. The Ye family had lost Yi Tianming, and their forces had suffered a setback. They were even more cautious, and even Yi Xuanji had become a person who did not leave the house. The Ye family's business was gradually handed over to Yi Ke to manage. It was unknown if it was because Yi Meiyu was frightened, but she actually began to restrain herself. She did not dare to mix around with her scoundrels, and her romantic affairs decreased by a lot. Smart people could tell at a glance that the Ye family was already going downhill. The Yen family was already strong, and now they were like a tiger that had grown wings. They were thousands of miles away from the Ye family. Another one that attracted the attention of many was Qin Batian. Qin Batian was originally a rising star of the younger generation, but there was still a large gap between him and the other major clans. But this time around he took advantage of the situation to rise up and had a close relationship with Tang Zheng, causing many people to be jealous. Why didn't they have such good foresight, placing their chips on Tang Zheng so early? Now it was time for them to reap the rewards. As for Tang Zheng's company, it was even more successful. It was developing extremely quickly in various fields, and its layout was becoming more and more grand. Even Tang Linger benefited a lot from it, and directly acted as the female lead of a TV series with a huge investment. Tang Zheng had nothing to do, so he had been cultivating at home. After all, he had gained a lot of insights from this battle. As for the others, they were even more so, as they worked even harder in their cultivation. Half of the energy in the spar had already been absorbed by Tang Zheng. The innate qi in his body had become more and more vigorous, and his cultivation had increased greatly. But his quiet days were quickly broken. Yan Luyan called and said that someone had actually invited him, and asked young Master Yan to pass the message. This person was naturally not an ordinary person. Ji Wuxiang. When Yan Luyan said this name, Tang Zheng was secretly shocked. Although he had only met Ji Wuxiang once, he had a deep impression of him. Logically speaking, he also owed Ji Wuxiang a favor, so he naturally could not refuse this invitation. This time, the location of the meeting was not Ji Wuxiang's high-class club, but a Go club. Tang Zheng was not a Go lover, so when he saw this Go club he could not help but be stunned. There was actually a private Go club nowadays, so he was afraid that this was definitely a business that was losing money. Yan Luyan seemed to have seen through his thoughts, and explained, "It is said that Ji Wuxiang is a Go lover, and this Go club has specially trained a group of Go players. It is said that there are many experts among them, and Ji Wuxiang himself is even at the level of a national master." Tang Zheng suddenly understood. With Ji Wuxiang's wealth and status, not to mention a Go club, even if there were 10 Go clubs, it would not be a problem for him to pay for his hobby. The Go club did not occupy a large area, and its appearance was like a Go piece. It was very exquisite, and it was quiet in the midst of chaos, with an elegant artistic conception. Ji Wuxiang quickly walked out to welcome him. He still had an ordinary appearance, and he looked like he would not be found in a crowd. It was a strong contrast to his identity. "Young Master Tang, please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Ji Wuxiang courteously welcomed him. Yan Luyan glanced at Tang Zheng. On the way here, the two of them had been speculating about the true purpose of Ji Wuxiang's invitation. In the end, Yan Luyan concluded that it was Tang Zheng's recent actions that had piqued his interest. It must be known that Ji Wuxiang had never taken the initiative to invite any of the previous great clans. This time, Tang Zheng had received such a courteous reception, which was unprecedented. This showed that Ji Wuxiang valued Tang Zheng even more than the previous great clans. But when they thought about it, Tang Zheng had stirred up the pool of water in the capital after entering it. Within a year, the situation in the capital had changed greatly, causing two great clans to be completely eliminated. To many people, this was simply impossible, but Tang Zheng had made the impossible possible. It could be called a miracle. As for Ji Wuxiang's true purpose, they still could not guess it. They could only take it one step at a time. Tang Zheng cupped his fists and said, "Manager Ji is too kind. Young masters, please follow me. The Go Club is simple and crude, so please don't mind it." Ji Wuxiang led the way in front. Yan Luyan chuckled and said, "Manager Ji, if your Go Club is considered simple and crude, then we are living in a thatched hut. Young Master Yan is joking. This Go Club is where I usually go when I like to be quiet. It's just that I don't know if we have neglected the two of you by meeting here." Ji Wuxiang said courteously. Tang Zheng lightly said, "Manager Ji is too polite. I am a bore and know nothing about Go, but I can still see that this place is not ordinary. It has really opened my eyes." As they chatted, the three of them arrived at a large hall. There were many Go players sitting there. They were all focused on playing Go and did not notice the three of them at all. Although Tang Zheng did not know much about Go, he could feel a killing intent from the Go board, and could not help but be attracted. The Go players played very quickly, and the game had many changes. The killing intent was awe-inspiring. The Go players' expressions were serious and their thinking time was extremely short. It could be seen that their Go skills were quite high. Yan Luyin knew a little about Go. Seeing these people play Go, his expression could not help but change. He said in a low voice, "Any one of these people would be an expert among experts. I wonder where Manager Ji went to find so many experts?" Tang Zheng looked deeply at Ji Wuxiang. Go players could not be recruited with money. The difficulty of recruiting so many experts was not something an outsider could imagine. Ji Wuxiang calmly said, "Young Master Yan is too serious. Young Master Tang, if you are interested, why don't we play a game?" Tang Zheng shook his head. "I don't know. That's a pity. Actually, I feel that Go skills are the same as martial arts. There are many profound principles within. The ancients said that the world is a Go game, and we are all Go pieces. The world is actually playing a very big Go game. If you can comprehend the various profound principles of this Go game, it will definitely be very beneficial. You might even be able to play this huge Go game." Ji Wuxiang said tirelessly. Tang Zheng's eyes trembled as he said, "The world is a Go game. Manager Ji's ambitions are great. Could it be that you also want to play this Go game?" Ji Wuxiang laughed. "I am just a person without the strength to truss a chicken. How could I dare to have such extravagant hopes? I just feel that young Master Tang is a dragon among men. You will definitely have the opportunity to comprehend this Go game and play this Go game." Tang Zheng chuckled. "Manager Ji thinks too highly of me. Who doesn't know of Manager Ji's huge power? The matter that no one in the capital can settle is a piece of cake in front of Manager Ji. It's just a piece of cake. How could I dare to be mentioned in the same breath as Manager Ji?" Tang Zheng could not understand the other's intentions and could not help but mutter in his heart, "Young Master Tang is too modest. If young Master Tang had the opportunity to play this Go game, I wonder how you would play it?" Ji Wuxiang persistently asked. Tang Zheng's eyebrows jumped as he said, "I don't know how to play Go, so I can't answer you. Play Go can be learned. Young Master Tang is smart, so you will naturally be able to learn it. I am not interested in learning for the time being. You will be interested in the future," Ji Wuxiang said in a profound manner. Yan Liuyun's expression became serious as he listened to the two's conversation. These words were too profound and he could not understand the meaning behind them. Could it be that the Go game was really that powerful? He casually picked up a Go piece from the Go board. Just as he was about to pick it up, his expression greatly changed. He stared at the Go piece in bewilderment and cried out in alarm, "This Go piece is so heavy." The Go piece was so heavy? Tang Zheng was confused as he pondered over what Ji Wuxiang was planning. Hearing Yan Liuyun's cry of alarm, he unconsciously looked at the Go piece in his hand. A Go piece was so small, so how heavy could it be? Yan Liuyun took a deep breath as if he was using all of his strength to pick up the Go piece. The veins on his arm bulged, making him look very strange. Tang Zheng's heart trembled. Yan Liuyun's appearance was definitely not fake. Could it be that this Go piece was really as heavy as 1,000 caddies? He casually grabbed the Go piece from Yan Liuyun's hand. Although he was mentally prepared, his arm suddenly sank as a strong force pressed down on his fingertips. He revolved his true qi and immediately counteracted this force. He let out a long breath and finally picked up the Go piece as if it was light. Yan Liuyun saw Tang Zheng's appearance and could not help but feel ashamed. He was a few years older than Tang Zheng, but their strength was so different. He actually had to struggle to pick up a Go piece. Then what was so strange about this Go piece? Tang Zheng also looked at the Go piece in his hand. It was a black Go piece as black as ink. What material was this small Go piece made of to be so heavy? This was too unusual. His other hand immediately grabbed another Go piece on the Go board. It was the same. The other Go pieces were also as heavy as 1,000 caddies. Chapter 831. These Go players played with the Go pieces at their fingertips, lifting the heavy pieces as if they were light, but the Go pieces were as heavy as 1,000 caddies. This showed that none of them were ordinary people. Tang Zheng examined these Go players again, but found that there was neither the fluctuation of inner energy of a martial artist nor the flow of zhenqi of a cultivator in their bodies, so how could they pick up the Go pieces? Tang Zheng was puzzled and could not hide his surprise as he looked at Ji Wuxiang. Seeing that he was so calm, he could not help but be shocked. Where did this person come from? So Tang Zheng asked tentatively, Director Ji, what are these Go pieces made of? How could they be so heavy? And where are these Go players from? How could they lift the heavy pieces as if they were light? Yan Luyan had already put down his chess piece and stared at Ji Wuxiang with a burning gaze. The world had always said that Ji Wuxiang was extraordinary, and now that he had clearly felt this point, he felt that he was even more unfathomable. He naturally wanted to know the answer to this. Ji Wuxiang glanced at the Go players and smiled faintly. I don't know what these Go pieces are made of, but I'm not sure. These Go pieces are passed down from ancient times. I don't understand the things of our ancestors. Is that so? Tang Zheng did not believe it. With technology so advanced, there were many ways to test a material. He did not believe that Ji Wuxiang had not done the relevant tests. Ji Wuxiang smiled amiably. If young Master Tang does not believe it, I can't do anything about it. This is the truth. As for these Go players, perhaps they are well versed in the art of Go, and their chi is compatible with the Go pieces, so they can pick up the Go pieces as if they are nothing. Tang Zheng frowned and thought about Ji Wuxiang's words. Was this a lie, or did the so-called art of Go really exist? He thought for a long time but could not come to a conclusion, so he decided not to think about it. Ji Wuxiang smiled and said, Gentlemen, this way please. Let's go to the pavilion over there to drink tea. After passing through the hall, the Go players still did not take a second look. It was as if the Go game in front of them was everything to them, and had the greatest attraction. Yan Luyan looked back 3 times with every step he took. He was shocked, but he couldn't figure it out. He followed the two to the pavilion. A tea set had already been prepared in the pavilion. A beautiful woman dressed like an ancient court lady was brewing tea. After she finished brewing tea for the 3 of them, she left the pavilion. President Ji's tea reception is truly a waste of God's gift. To me, the art of chess is the same as the art of tea. I know nothing about them. Tang Zheng said. Ji Wuxiang clapped his hands and said with a smile, Young Master Tang, you're a man of true feelings. These tricks are only used to deceive the average person. You've already seen through the essence, so there's no need for these tricks to set you off. Hearing Ji Wuxiang praise him like this, Tang Zheng felt a little embarrassed. His family was not well off when he was young, so how could he have the heart to learn these things? He was not like the children of a rich family who were proficient in the 4 arts. Seeing him talking about other things and not getting to the point, Tang Zheng couldn't help but ask directly. President Ji invited me here today. What is the purpose of this invitation? To watch the Go game and drink tea. That's simple. Tang Zheng did not believe it. Ji Wuxiang said with a smile. Young Master Tang has been busy recently and has gained a lot. You've been busy all day, so naturally you need some peace and quiet. There's nothing special about this tea house other than peace and quiet. So I took the initiative to invite young Master Tang to have some peace and quiet. Tang Zheng looked at him meaningfully. His mouth twitched. Who are you trying to fool? He felt more and more that Ji Wuxiang was unfathomable. So he said without batting an eyelid, Thank you, President Ji, for your kindness. I haven't thanked President Ji for his help last time at the club. It's just a small matter. I heard that Miss Tanglinger has been doing well recently and her path to stardom is broad. I really have to congratulate you. If I had such a sister, I would be very happy. Seeing him mention Linger, Tang Zheng followed along and said, Linger likes these things. I will naturally do my best to satisfy her. Then Miss Tanglinger is really happy. Ji Wuxiang paused for a moment and then changed the topic. Tang Zheng is like the sun in the sky. If I may ask, what plans do you have for the future? Tang Zheng shook his head and said, What plans can I have? I'll just live a simple life. Young Master Tang must be joking. You can do whatever you want. How can that be considered a simple life? Presumably, the capital and even the country will be in the palm of young Master Tang's hand. Tang Zheng's head bulged and he became vigilant. These words were a bit disgraceful. Chief Ji's words are exaggerated. This is my sincere truth. A man's pursuit is nothing more than power. With young Master Tang's strength, this power is not suitable. Tang Zheng's eyes became sharp as he stared at Ji Wuxiang and said, I am a law-abiding citizen. How can I do things that violate the law? Chief Ji's power is great, so of course you are not afraid of these rumors. I am afraid. Tang Zheng had not easily dispelled the government's fear of him, so he would not let others speak of him. As for why Ji Wuxiang mentioned these words, he really could not figure it out. In this world, only those with ability can live. Young Master Tang is young and full of vigor. Could it be that you do not envy the ancient emperors? Ji Wuxiang patiently said. I don't want to. This is a new era, not ancient times. It is better to speak less of such nonsense. If Chief Ji does not have any other matters, then we will take our leave. Tang Zheng had already sensed a sense of crisis. This Ji Wuxiang seemed harmless, but he was like a poisonous snake. He actually used such a disgraceful thing to seduce him. If he fell for it, then he was afraid that what awaited him would not be good. Moreover, he had never thought of becoming a king in his heart. He just wanted to live a peaceful life and at the same time increase his strength to protect the people around him. Seeing Tang Zheng stand up, Ji Wuxiang laughed and said, Young Master Tang, please don't blame me. This Ji spoke without thinking. Please sit, please sit. Tang Zheng and Yan Luyan looked at each other, and Yan Luyan nodded. Tang Zheng did not understand Ji Wuxiang's purpose, so he sat down again. With young Master Tang's strength, if you don't use it, then wouldn't it be a waste? Ji Wuxiang waited for them to sit down and said sincerely and regretfully. Tang Zheng's face sank and said, There's no need for Boss Ji to worry about this. Ji Wuxiang faintly smiled and said, Young Master Tang, I heard that there's a white-clothed woman called Fu Yao in your residence. I wonder if I have the honor to introduce her to you? I've admired her for a long time and would like to meet her. Fu Yao? Tang Zheng was slightly shocked. Could this be his true purpose? To meet Fu Yao? But Fu Yao was a complete stranger to him, so why did he want to meet her? Could it be that the news of the Empyrean fairy killing the sword god had reached his ears? Tang Zheng did not change his expression and tactfully declined. Fu Yao is willing to meet a stranger. Ji Wuxiang faintly sighed and said, That's a pity. The Fu family is the most ancient family name in Huaxia. It is said that they are the descendants of Fuxi. If this Miss Fu Yao is from this family, then she would have a long history. Boss Ji is experienced and knowledgeable. As for Fu Yao's family inheritance, I don't know. Tang Zheng still did not agree. Is that so? I thought young Master Tang would know. After all, she lives in your residence. But I heard that a few thousand years ago, there was a woman called Fu Yao who shares the same name as your family. It's fate. Tang Zheng was shocked. What did Ji Wuxiang mean? Could it be that he already knew Fu Yao's origins? No. He had never told anyone about Fu Yao's origins. He had never even mentioned the name of the Empyrean fairy, so how could Ji Wuxiang know? Was all of this a coincidence, an unintentional remark, or was he deliberately doing it? Tang Zheng could not see through Ji Wuxiang anymore. Ji Wuxiang continued, Young Master Tang, are you listening to me? Tang Zheng was slightly startled and said, Of course I'm listening. There are too many people with the same name in this world. It's not surprising. Perhaps. But this Fu Yao in history is not simple. Although she is not in the official history, she has left behind many legends. Some say that Fu Yao played a part in Qin Shi Huang unifying the world. In addition, she also has a very impressive name, the Empyrean Fairy. Hearing the name Empyrean Fairy, Tang Zheng's heart almost jumped out of his throat, but he still pretended to be calm and did not reveal any flaws. He faintly said, This Fu Yao is so formidable, but there is no trace of her in the official history. That's strange. Boss Ji is experienced and knowledgeable to even know about matters from several thousand years ago. Formidable. Ji Wuxiang looked at Tang Zheng with a smile that was not a smile and said, History is written by the victors. Qin Shi Huang naturally did not want the world to think that there was a woman on his path to becoming a king. If the world knew that he was able to ascend the throne because of a woman, how would the world view him? After all, women in ancient times were not valued, and thought that a woman without talent was virtuous. Tang Zheng scoffed. If he had not been to Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum, he would have believed these words. But he had seen Qin Shi Huang and the Empyrean Fairy, so he naturally would not believe it. He was afraid that there was a hidden story. The Empyrean Fairy and he had known each other for so long, but she rarely talked about her past. Even when he beat around the bush, she remained silent. That's a pity. This kind of talented woman was buried in history. Tang Zheng pretended to sigh with regret. If I could see this person again, then I would have no regrets in this life. Ji Wuxiang looked deeply at him and sighed. Several thousand years have already passed. This person has already passed away. How could I see her again? Tang Zheng said. That's not necessarily true. Who knows, maybe a miracle will happen. Ji Wuxiang said. Tang Zheng's heart beat wildly. What was the meaning of Ji Wuxiang's words? Did he really know Fu Yao's identity? Was this all a test, or did he already have concrete evidence? In addition, where did he get this information from? After all, it had already passed 1,000 years ago, and it had not been passed down in the official history. There were too many secrets that no one knew about. But one thing was certain. Ji Wuxiang beating around the bush and beating around the bush, his ultimate goal was the Empyrean Fairy Fu Yao. Chapter 832. Thank you for your hospitality today, President Ji. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Tang Zheng stood up again. Yan Luyan also felt the strange atmosphere and stood up as well. Seeing that Tang Zheng was determined to leave, Ji Wuxiang helplessly smiled and said, "Then we'll meet again next time." Ji Wuxiang personally sent the two of them out of the Go Club. When they passed through the hall, Tang Zheng once again took a deep look at the Go players, but still did not find the slightest difference. Could it be that there really was some profound mystery of the Go Dao? And these Go players had comprehended the mystery, which was why they could use these Go pieces so easily. He left the Go Club with deep doubts. When the two of them were far away, Ji Wuxiang's face sank. He meaningfully muttered to himself, "Whether or not Fu Yao is the Empyrean Fairy, I will definitely investigate it. If she really is the Empyrean Fairy, then I'm really interested." After Tang Zheng and Yan Luyan drove far away, Yan Luyan curiously asked, "Young Master Tang, you and President Ji are speaking in riddles, making people confused." Tang Zheng fell into deep thought. Fu Yao's actions had indeed caused a lot of trouble. Even Ji Wuxiang had noticed her, and even connected her to the Empyrean Fairy from 1,000 years ago. His imagination was truly astonishing. How did he guess so accurately? Young Master Yan, this person is not simple. It's best to maintain a certain distance from him. Tang Zheng worriedly said. Maintain a distance? Yan Luyan was stunned. Who knows how many people in Beijing want to have a good relationship with Ji Wuxiang, but they can't. Yet you're taking the initiative to maintain a distance from him. If word gets out, I'm afraid people will be shocked. I don't care about others, but I feel that I'm not the same kind of person as him. When we were in the club, he took the initiative to give you a name card. It means that he values you very much. If Ji Wuxiang helps you, your future development will be even greater. I don't need it. Tang Zheng firmly refused. Ji Wuxiang was a threat. Now that he had his eyes on the Empyrean Fairy, why would he continue to tangle with him? Yan Luyan looked at him helplessly. His heart moved as he said, "Could it be that the Miss Fu Yao in your family is really the Empyrean Fairy from 1,000 years ago? Do you think it's possible?" Tang Zheng didn't answer but asked instead. Yan Luyan was slightly startled, and then he laughed involuntarily. Of course not. How can a person live for 1,000 years? Even if the Empyrean Fairy survived, she would have been an old woman, not a young girl. Tang Zheng nodded. So you know how absurd Ji Wuxiang's words are. Yan Luyan nodded in agreement. This person said this for no reason. What is his purpose? I really can't figure it out. Since you can't figure it out, then stay at a respectful distance. That's the best way. Tang Zheng reiterated. Yan Luyan had long since followed Tang Zheng's lead. He nodded. All right, I'll listen to your suggestion. Tang Zheng returned home, feeling uneasy. Ji Wuxiang's unfathomable appearance and those strange chess games appeared in his mind from time to time. He just happened to see the Empyrean Fairy walking towards him. He called out, Fu Yao, can you come to my study for a moment? We can talk in detail. The Empyrean fairy glanced at him, then went straight into the study and stood in front of a row of bookshelves. These days she had read almost all the books on the shelves and had a deep understanding of Huaxia's history and modern society. Seeing her standing in front of the bookshelves, Tangjung followed her gaze and saw a row of history books. This was the Empyrean fairy's favorite. Tangjung just happened to remember Ji Wuxiang's words. I heard that when Qin Shi Huang unified the world and ascended to the throne, you were the one who made the greatest contribution. The Empyrean fairy's gaze moved away from the bookshelves and looked suspiciously at Tangjung. Where did you hear this? She asked. The Empyrean fairy had already confirmed that there were no records of her in history, so she couldn't help but be surprised to hear this from Tangjung's mouth. Someone told me. He wanted to see you today, but I refused. Someone wanted to see me? Moreover, he knows the true history of the past? The Empyrean fairy's eyes widened. Yes, this person's name is Ji Wuxiang. He looks ordinary but is actually quite powerful. It's said that there's nothing he can't handle in the capital, but I feel that he's unfathomable. Tangjung spoke the truth. Ji Wuxiang? The Empyrean fairy frowned deeply and shook her head. I've never heard of this name. How does he know about me? How would I know? Moreover, he actually suspects that you're the Empyrean fairy from 1,000 years ago. How smart. Tangjung rolled his eyes speechlessly. He's really smart, but too smart. Will there be any problems once he sees through your identity? The Empyrean fairy's eyes flashed with a strange light. There won't be any problems. Although Tangjung was still a little nervous, seeing that the Empyrean fairy didn't take it seriously, he could only let it go. He just said, I hope that we can deepen our trust in each other in the future. Only then will we be able to face all the possible dangers together. The Empyrean fairy stared at Tangjung deeply and said, You and I have never truly trusted each other completely. The only thing we trust is ourselves. Qin Shi Huang was also like that. Tangjung had always felt that the Empyrean fairy was always on guard against him. Now that he heard what she said, it was finally confirmed. So it turned out that she was on guard against him because of his identity as a Skywalker. Could it be that Skywalkers really only trust themselves and not others? Tangjung lowered his head and thought for a while. Then he immediately rejected this theory. He was a Skywalker, but he would also trust other people wholeheartedly. Everyone is an individual. Don't use Qin Shi Huang's personality on me. Tangjung refuted. The Empyrean fairy disagreed. A leopard cannot change its spots. I know Skywalkers better than you. Before Qin Shi Huang ascended to the throne, he was also like this. But after he ascended to the peak of power, he changed completely. That's why I was disheartened and didn't want to help him anymore. But I didn't expect that he actually wanted to use me to adjust the pure yang energy in his body. What a wishful thinking. Tangjung of course knew what it meant to adjust the pure yang energy. This Empyrean fairy actually didn't care about the most powerful emperor in history. So it's useless to persuade me. Tangjung fell into deep thought. The knowledge that the Empyrean fairy knew was very important to him, especially now that the demon race had arrived. Although the government was very confident that the demon race had already been eliminated, Tangjung wasn't so optimistic. After all, 100 Change Star Lord still hadn't shown up, and Tian Chanzi seemed to have disappeared from the world. All of these things were very strange. Tangjung couldn't help but feel suspicious. Even the longer it was calm, the more he felt that a storm was coming. Right now it was just brewing, but once it exploded, it would definitely be very shocking. So it was very important for him to completely trust the Empyrean fairy. How can I make the Empyrean fairy trust me? Suddenly his heart moved. He remembered her surprise when she saw him summon the golden dragon in his body, and even her expression when he talked about the dragon race. Tangjung had reason to believe that she would definitely be very interested in dragons. In the past, Tangjung avoided talking about dragons, so she didn't talk about anything either. Every day, she just carefully taught Nana. If he really wanted to gain her trust, perhaps dragons would be a breakthrough. Take her to see the five-clawed golden dragon. This idea emerged in Tangjung's mind, and then became very strong. Although it was a bit risky, It could most likely open the knot in the Empyrean fairy's heart and weaken her guard and suspicion towards him. If 100 Change Star-Lord caused any trouble, perhaps she would help Tang Zheng without hesitation. Tian Chanzi wasn't 100 Change Star-Lord's opponent. Perhaps he could only pin his hopes on the Empyrean fairy. Moreover, even if she saw the 5-clawed golden dragon, what effect would it have? Probably not. So Tang Zheng no longer hesitated and said mysteriously, "Tonight I'll take you to a place." "Where?" The Empyrean fairy looked at him suspiciously. "You'll know when we get there." Tang Zheng deliberately kept her in suspense. The Empyrean fairy was not afraid of anything, so of course she was not afraid that Tang Zheng would harm her. After all, whether or not he had the ability to harm her was still unknown. Okay. The Empyrean fairy quickly agreed. Late at night, the capital had already fallen into a deep sleep. Two figures quietly moved forward in the capital, and after a moment, they arrived at the imperial city and disappeared. A figure suddenly appeared on the walls of the imperial city, suspiciously looking at the vast imperial city, muttering, "Those two clearly came here. Why did they suddenly disappear? Strange. It's late at night. Why did Tang Zheng bring them to the imperial city?" He gazed deeply at the imperial city. Although the imperial city was still grand and magnificent, there was no emperor inside after all. Instead, it had become a scenic spot where anyone could enter. With the addition of people, the prestige of the imperial city was naturally reduced by a lot. This imperial city is no longer as grand as it used to be. What's there to see? Where did they disappear to? He was puzzled. Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy entered the imperial city, and the Empyrean fairy's curved eyebrows immediately knit together. She asked in bewilderment, "What's so strange about this place?" She had clearly sensed that something was strange, but she couldn't explain it clearly, so she asked this question. Tang Zheng faintly smiled. "Please follow me, you'll know in a moment." The Empyrean fairy deeply stared at him, thinking, "I want to see what kind of medicine you're selling in your gourd." Thus she silently followed behind him. After walking through a long passage, a dignified and mysterious aura rushed over, and her eyes couldn't help but fiercely jump a few times. Her breathing gradually became rapid, and her eyes widened as she stared fixedly at the end of the passage. There was a golden light coming from that side, and a kind of frightening aura was growing stronger and stronger. This aura even gave off a familiar feeling. Chapter 833. The 5-clawed golden dragon hovered in front of them. Its body was huge and its head was high. It looked down at the two people in front of it, especially at the Empyrean fairy. It was even hostile. The overwhelming might of the dragon shrouded the fairy of 9 heavens. She was stunned as if she had been electrocuted. Her heartstrings trembled. After a long while, she spat out a word with difficulty, "Dragon." "Who are you?" The 5-clawed golden dragon asked first. Its voice was like rolling thunder, exploding in the Empyrean fairy's ears. The Empyrean fairy seemed to wake up from a dream. Her eyes became sharp. She glanced at the dragon and Tang Zheng and said, "There is actually a 5-clawed golden dragon imprisoned under the imperial city. Tang Zheng, could it be that the dragon clan's martial arts you practice is related to this dragon?" Tang Zheng nodded and introduced, "Everyone, don't be nervous. This is the 5-clawed golden dragon. This is the Empyrean fairy. I brought her here to see you." "See me? Didn't I tell you that I don't want to see strangers?" The 5-clawed golden dragon was angry. After it finished speaking, it spat out a mouthful of dragon chi. A fierce wind blew, as if it wanted to sweep the Empyrean fairy up. However, this fierce wind couldn't move an inch in front of the Empyrean fairy. The Empyrean fairy stared at the 5-clawed golden dragon and said, "You are a dragon, but you are imprisoned here. Interesting, interesting." The 5-clawed golden dragon was angered. It let out a dragon roar and roared, "You dare to laugh at me? Hee hee, you are already imprisoned. What right do you have to roar at me like this?" The Empyrean fairy didn't seem to be afraid of the 5-clawed golden dragon. Instead, she walked around the 5-clawed golden dragon and looked at it with interest. Seeing that both sides were at daggers drawn, Tang Zheng quickly interjected, "Everyone calm down. The 5-clawed golden dragon is my friend. In addition, the Empyrean fairy is very important to me. Let's not hurt each other. Are you the Empyrean fairy? The five-clawed golden dragon was shocked. Its huge eyes stared straight at the Empyrean fairy. Aren't you dead? How did he come back to life? Seeing that the five-clawed golden dragon actually knew about the Empyrean fairy, Tang Zheng was shocked and said, "You actually know her?" "Of course I know. The Empyrean fairy is so famous. How could I not know? The Empyrean fairy has the 9 yin saint body, which is the same as your 9 yang saint body. They are both rare constitutions. And the Empyrean fairy is the best of the 9 yin holy body. Besides, she has another identity, and it's hard for her not to attract attention." "Shut up." The Empyrean fairy suddenly rebuked and stopped him. Tang Zheng was slightly stunned. He didn't know about the Empyrean fairy's origin, but it seemed that he had overlooked the most important part. The five-clawed golden dragon knew a lot of things, but he didn't ask it. Tang Zheng turned to the Empyrean fairy and said, "Fu Yao, maybe I shouldn't ask this question. But since I brought you to see the five-clawed golden dragon, this is my biggest secret. This has already shown my sincerity, so why can't you be honest with me? This is good for both of us." The Empyrean fairy looked at Tang Zheng with a complicated gaze. She knew that if Tang Zheng's words were reasonable, then even if she didn't say it, Tang Zheng could find out from the five-clawed golden dragon's mouth. "Do you really want to know about me? Sometimes, knowing more is not a good thing." The Empyrean fairy said deeply. Tang Zheng nodded firmly. "Yes, I want to know." The Empyrean fairy looked at the five-clawed golden dragon and said, "Then tell me." The five-clawed golden dragon laughed and said, "Those people may have died, but our dragon clan's longevity banquet is long, so these things are still known." The Empyrean fairy snorted coldly. The Empyrean fairy's true identity is the Emperor of Heaven's daughter. This is a secret that very few people know. However, for some unknown reason, she was personally trapped in the mountain river map by the Emperor of Heaven. After the Emperor of Heaven died, the world changed and history changed. The Empyrean fairy escaped from the mountain river map and met Qin Shi Huang, who helped him complete his hegemony. Later on, the Empyrean fairy mysteriously disappeared. I heard that she died, but it turns out that she didn't die. The Emperor of Heaven's daughter. Tang Zheng was dumbfounded. He was afraid that even Tian Chanzi didn't know this, so he didn't react to the Empyrean fairy's name. This name alone sounded very prominent. A person who dared to be called the Emperor of Heaven was naturally not an ordinary person. Looking at Tang Zheng's reaction, the five-clawed golden dragon guessed what he was thinking and said, "The Emperor of Heaven was a descendant of Fuxi. His cultivation was extremely shocking, so he was crowned as the Emperor of Heaven, the Lord of Heaven. You can imagine what it means to be the Lord of the Heavens at that time." Tang Zheng looked at the Empyrean fairy with shining eyes. It turned out that her background was so great. Ji Wuxiang mentioned the ancient Fu clan, which probably knew the Empyrean fairy's true identity from somewhere, so they valued her so much. Imagine, if Ji Wuxiang confirmed Fu Yao's identity, what would happen? What action would he take? Or, what use would Fu Yao have for him? Tang Zheng couldn't figure it out, so he asked the question in his heart. Hearing this, the Empyrean fairy was startled and unnatural. She asked, "You mean that Ji Wuxiang also knows my identity as the Emperor of Heaven's daughter?" Tang Zheng hesitated and shook his head. "I'm not sure, but I have to be careful. This person is unpredictable. However, if he really knows this, what can he do? What use do you have for him?" The Empyrean fairy's eyes flickered, and she hesitated. Obviously, she didn't want to mention it. The five-clawed golden dragon laughed. "The Empyrean fairy is very useful. She should be the last survivor of the Fu clan, and only he knows where the gate of heaven is." Hearing this, the Empyrean fairy's face became very ugly, and she glared at the five-clawed golden dragon. "What is the gate of heaven?" Tang Zheng asked curiously, thinking that this trip was worth it. Not only did he find out about the Emperor of Heaven's daughter, but now there was a gate of heaven. Just the name alone was not simple. The five-clawed golden dragon ignored the look in the Empyrean fairy's eyes and said, "The gate of heaven is a secret place of the Fu clan. It is said that it hides a huge secret and countless treasures. If one enters the gate of heaven and obtains these treasures, then one can become the new emperor of heaven. This not only represents supreme glory, but also endless power. Not many people can resist this temptation. The Empyrean fairy is equivalent to the key to opening the gate of heaven. Therefore, once her identity is exposed, it will naturally attract countless people. Tang Zheng suddenly realized that the Empyrean fairy probably also knew this, which was why she lived in seclusion after coming to the capital in order to protect her identity. However, her name was not changed, and no one would have thought that Ji Wuxiang, with just a name and her actions, would be able to connect her to a person from 1,000 years ago. This caused her identity to be in danger of being exposed. The Gate of Heaven is a secret place of the Fu clan. How can outsiders be allowed to enter? No one should even think about touching it. The Empyrean fairy said coldly, emitting a murderous aura. The five-clawed golden dragon laughed. You may think this way, but others will not think this way. No one will ignore such a huge opportunity. Tang Zheng recalled Ji Wuxiang's expression and his heart trembled, saying, I'm guessing that Ji Wuxiang is most likely because of this matter. That old fox, he looks harmless, but he actually has this idea. If anyone dares to have this idea, I will definitely not let them go. I want to meet this Ji Wuxiang. The Empyrean fairy said resolutely. Ah. Tang Zheng was shocked. It was not easy for me to brush him off. If you take the initiative to deliver yourself to him, won't it be dangerous? If we allow him to scheme behind our backs, then it will be even more dangerous. Moreover, this is not my style. I, the Empyrean fairy, have always been straightforward and straightforward. I want to find out his true goal. Tang Zheng speechlessly rolled his eyes. He did not know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. Let's think about it at length. Tang Zheng tactfully advised. He was still not at ease with Ji Wuxiang. This person was evil, and he did not want him to know the real situation of the Empyrean fairy. You are a grown man. What are you being so wishy-washy about? Could it be that you are afraid that he will harm me? The Empyrean fairy asked unhappily. Tang Zheng smiled embarrassedly. Wasn't this exactly what he was worried about? This is no longer a world filled with experts. In this world, if anyone wants to harm me, then they have to consider their own strength. The Empyrean fairy said confidently. During this period of time, the Empyrean fairy had gained enough understanding of the modern world. Although the modern world was technologically advanced, in terms of personal strength, she was confident that no one could be her opponent. This was why she was so confident. Tang Zheng was speechless. The five-clawed golden dragon laughed and said, Tang Zheng, you are actually worried about the safety of the Empyrean fairy. Your worries are groundless. Do you know how high her cultivation is? This was a question that had always puzzled Tang Zheng. He looked at the five-clawed golden dragon blankly and asked, How high? If I am not mistaken, she should be in the apotheosis stage. The five-clawed golden dragon deduced. The Empyrean fairy did not refute, which obviously meant that she agreed. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He had been guessing how powerful the Empyrean fairy was, but he did not expect that she was in the apotheosis stage, which was much higher than Tian Chanzi. Tian Chanzi had only cultivated to the Yuanying stage. The apotheosis stage. Tang Zheng suddenly remembered something. He looked at the five-clawed golden dragon with a complicated expression. The five-clawed golden dragon guessed his thoughts and said, If someone in the apotheosis stage can break the formation of this imperial city, I will be able to see the light of day again. Tang Zheng nodded suddenly. This was what he had agreed with the five-clawed golden dragon. That was why the five-clawed golden dragon had helped him time and time again. Now that there was a ready-made master of the apotheosis stage here, didn't it mean that the five-clawed golden dragon could be free soon? The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes became deep, but it could not hide the excitement in them. It had been imprisoned here for hundreds of years, and had been looking forward to seeing the light of day again. However, if it waited for Tang Zheng to reach the apotheosis stage, it would take a long time. Now that there was a ready-made candidate, of course it would be happy. The five-clawed golden dragon winked at Tang Zheng. Its meaning was very clear. It wanted him to ask the Empyrean fairy to help it out. At this moment, Tang Zheng hesitated. The five-clawed golden dragon had a lot of resentment against human beings. It was imprisoned here by human beings. What if it took revenge after it was freed? Chapter 834. The five-clawed golden dragon obviously didn't notice Tang Zheng's worry, and continued to give him meaningful looks. The Empyrean fairy raised her eyebrows and asked, "What's the matter?" Tang Zheng had no choice but to tell her the truth. The five-clawed golden dragon is trapped by the Imperial City's restriction array. Only those in the spirit-severing stage can break the restriction array and regain its freedom. You are in the spirit-severing stage, so I want to ask for your help. The Empyrean fairy coldly snorted and refused without hesitation. No. Ha. Tang Zheng and the five-clawed golden dragon didn't expect her to refuse so decisively. They looked at her in surprise and asked, "Why not?" The Empyrean fairy looked at the five-clawed golden dragon indifferently and said, "No means no." Tang Zheng rolled his eyes and guessed a few things. In any case, the Empyrean fairy was also a woman and had a woman's common trait, holding a grudge. She was obviously the same. Just now, the five-clawed golden dragon had exposed her true identity, so she refused the five-clawed golden dragon's request. The five-clawed golden dragon didn't understand this and was indignant. "You help me out, this won't do you any harm, so why don't you agree? Why do you ask so many questions?" The Empyrean fairy curled her lips and said coldly. Tang Zheng sighed inwardly. This five-clawed golden dragon was probably a single dragon. It didn't know how to read the mind of the opposite sex, so how could it pick up other female dragons? The five-clawed golden dragon angrily roared and swayed its body, as if it wanted to teach the Empyrean fairy a lesson. However, the Empyrean fairy was not afraid at all. Instead, she took a few steps forward and approached the five-clawed golden dragon. Her thin body was in sharp contrast to the huge monster in front of her, but her momentum was not weak at all. The five-clawed golden dragon glared at her and opened his mouth wide as if he wanted to swallow her. But in the end he restrained himself and said unwillingly, "If it weren't for Tang Zheng's face, I would have swallowed you in one gulp." The Empyrean fairy sneered. "You don't have to give him face. I'm standing right here. You can try swallowing me." The five-clawed golden dragon was reluctant to admit his mistake. He was trying to regain some face. But the Empyrean fairy had unexpectedly rebutted him. He didn't know how to respond. The five-clawed golden dragon was extremely embarrassed. It angrily turned its head away. Out of sight, out of mind. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at this scene. He originally thought that the five-clawed golden dragon was so high and mighty that no one could control it. But now, it seemed that this was not the case. Everything had its vanquisher. The Empyrean fairy was actually able to subdue it and make it suffer, but there was nothing it could do. In fact, he was relieved. If the Empyrean fairy had agreed to his request, the five-clawed golden dragon would have been freed. This meant that there were too many unknowns that he couldn't control. This was not a situation he wanted to see. Now that the Empyrean fairy had refused, everything could be maintained. This was the best result. The five-clawed golden dragon was angry and stopped talking to them. Tang Zheng simply left the Imperial City with the Empyrean fairy and quietly returned home. The person who was following them had already left, so he didn't notice the two of them coming out of the Imperial City. The two of them also didn't know that they were being followed. This was enough to show how powerful the person who was following them was to be able to escape their perception. The next day, the Empyrean fairy couldn't wait to find Tang Zheng and ask him about Ji Wuxiang's residence. Tang Zheng also didn't know where Ji Wuxiang lived. This person's whereabouts were secretive. It wouldn't be easy to find him unless he took the initiative to contact him. Since the Empyrean fairy had made up her mind to see him, then he would ask him out and meet him openly to see if he could find some clues. Tang Zheng found Ji Wuxiang's business card, which was given to him at the club. Yan Luyan once said that this business card was not simple, and that many people wanted to get such a business card. But now Tang Zheng didn't care much about this business card. He dialed the number on the card. After a few beeps, Ji Wuxiang's voice came from the other end. "Young Master Tang called me. What a surprise." Tang Zheng was slightly surprised. He hadn't spoken yet, but the other party had already guessed it. This was really not simple. Boss G, didn't you say yesterday that you wanted to see Miss Fu Yao? Where should we meet? Tang Zheng went straight to the point. Haha, young Master Tang is really a straightforward person. I'm fishing in the suburbs of Beijing. You can come. Tang Zheng and the mysterious maiden of the 9 heavens drove to the agreed location in the suburbs of the capital. This was a river. The river was very deep and very clear. Not far away was a green mountain, which was completely different from the tall buildings of the capital. Ji Wuxiang sat alone on the riverbank with a fishing rod in his hand. He leisurely stared at the river. Suddenly the corner of his mouth rose and he said with a meaningful smile, "The fish took the bait." With a flick of his wrist, he raised the fishing rod and a large fish flew out of the water and landed in his hand. Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy just happened to see this scene. Tang Zheng praised, "Boss Ji is really in a good mood to find such a place with green mountains and clear water." Ji Wuxiang turned around to look at the two. His eyes fell on the Empyrean fairy and said, "I believe this must be Miss Fu Yao." Ji Wuxiang stared at him as if he wanted to see through him. However, after staring for a long time, he was unable to see anything. Ji Wuxiang was just an ordinary person. There was nothing special about him. This made the Empyrean fairy disappointed. "I heard that you wanted to see me," the Empyrean fairy said. Ji Wuxiang nodded with a smile and said, "Yes, I have long heard of Miss Fu Yao's famous name. To be able to meet you today is an honor of 3 lifetimes." The Empyrean fairy didn't bat an eyelid. Miss Fu Yao's surname is very rare and very ancient. I wonder where Miss Fu Yao is from? Ji Wuxiang asked. The Empyrean fairy said, "What's so important about this? I am very interested in history, so I like to study these things. In particular, the various surnames of Huaxia all have their own historical origins. Miss Fu Yao's surname is especially special. It is said that you are a descendant of Fuxi. I wonder if Miss Fu Yao can dispel my doubts? You will be disappointed. I do not have a fixed residence. The 4 corners of the world are my home. I do not know where I am from." The Empyrean fairy refused. Ji Wuxiang didn't seem to be surprised by this answer. He smiled calmly and said, "Actually, there are many people from the Fu clan in history. Several thousand years ago, when Qin Shi Huang unified the world, there was one person who assisted him. That person was from the Fu clan. Speaking of which, it is quite a coincidence that this person not only has the same surname as you, but even your name is the same. You are both called Fu Yao." "Oh, there are many people with the same surname and name. What's so strange about that?" Fu Yao said without leaving a trace. Ji Wuxiang nodded and said, "That makes sense. It is just that there are very few people with the surname Fu, and even their names are the same. That is why it is a bit strange." Tang Zheng interrupted and said, "Director Ji, I have already said this before. You didn't believe me, but now you should believe me." Young Master Tang must be joking. "I have never doubted your words. I just thought that Miss Fu Yao knew a bit more, so I wanted to meet her in person. Now that my wish has been fulfilled, I must thank young Master Tang," Ji Wuxiang said as he cupped his hands towards Tang Zheng. "I have already caught a few fish. Why don't you stay and enjoy the delicious food before you leave?" Ji Wuxiang urged him to stay. "No need." Tang Zheng refused, indicating that the Empyrean fairy could leave. But the Empyrean fairy turned a blind eye to it. She slowly raised her hand and pointed at Ji Wuxiang. Her movements were very slow, but if it was a normal person, they would not be able to escape from this finger. However, as long as Ji Wuxiang knew martial arts, he would definitely be able to escape this calamity. With the Empyrean fairy's strength, this seemingly simple finger was definitely not to be underestimated. It must be known that the high and mighty sword god had died under this finger. Ji Wuxiang was very clear on this point, so when he saw this finger he turned pale with fright and exclaimed, "Miss Fu Yao, what are you doing?" Tang Zheng was also shocked by her actions, but he immediately understood her intentions. Although she had seen Ji Wuxiang, she was definitely the same as him and did not discover anything. Therefore, she was not willing to give up. Before leaving, she directly made a move to test him. The Empyrean fairy did not care about the rules of this world, so she naturally did not care about Ji Wuxiang's illustrious identity. Therefore, she did not hesitate to make a move. Tang Zheng could block this attack, but he chose to wait and see. He also wanted to know how Ji Wuxiang would react. Ji Wuxiang's expression changed greatly, and he retreated in panic. However, he was unable to escape this finger. The fingertip had already reached his chest, and there was a faint sound of wind and thunder. If he was hit, he was afraid that he would not be able to keep his life. If a person really knew martial arts in this life and death situation, they would instinctively counterattack, because no one wanted to die. However, Ji Wuxiang still did not react. He was dumbstruck, like a fish on a chopping board, helplessly waiting for death. The fingertip finally hit Ji Wuxiang, and Ji Wuxiang flew out like a kite with a broken string. With a splash, he fell into the river, splashing up snow-white waves. Tang Zheng was dumbstruck and said he's dead. The Empyrean fairy's expression was grave, and said he won't die. Ji Wuxiang's reaction was out of her expectations. In this life and death situation, he actually did not put up any resistance, which meant that he really did not know martial arts. If Ji Wuxiang really did put up any resistance, the Empyrean fairy would not have shown mercy and would have really taken his life. That was because she did not like people deliberately mystifying and deceiving her in front of her. But until the last moment, Ji Wuxiang's performance was similar to a person who did not even have the strength to truss a chicken. Therefore, she instead held back. This seemingly lightning-like attack did not hurt him at all. Ji Wuxiang floated up from the river and drank a few mouthfuls of water. He was like a drowning dog, battered and exhausted, and shouted, "Young Master Tang, Miss Fu Yao, what are you doing?" Tang Zheng and Fu Yao looked at each other and said, "Manager Ji, I'm sorry. Fu Yao did not know that you did not know martial arts, so she wanted to spar with you. Please forgive her." Ji Wuxiang swam to the shore and bitterly smiled with dejection. "This is truly an unexpected calamity. Miss Fu Yao, I'm just a person who does not even have the strength to truss a chicken. How can I be compared to experts like you? Next time, please remind me before we fight. If I had admitted defeat, I wouldn't have suffered such a loss." The Empyrean fairy's face was filled with disappointment. "Manager Ji, I'll send you back." Tang Zheng was a little embarrassed. "No need, my car is over there. I'll go back by myself." Since that was the case, Tang Zheng did not want to stay any longer, so he got in the car with Fu Yao and left. Ji Wuxiang's body was dripping wet as he looked at the direction where the car disappeared with an unfathomable smile. He muttered, "You want to test me? Haha." Chapter 835. The water vapor on Ji Wuxiang's body evaporated completely. If Tang Zheng and the Empyrean fairy saw this, they would be shocked. This was not an ability that ordinary people could have, and they did not see Ji Wuxiang's extraordinary skills at all. Even the Empyrean fairy's probing did not succeed. This not only showed that the other party was strong and good at hiding, but also that his temperament was not comparable to ordinary people. In the face of the threat of death, he could control his body's instincts and remain indifferent. "I can be sure that Fu Yao is the Empyrean fairy," Ji Wuxiang said lightly, his eyes flashing with a strange light. "Haha, Tang Zheng is really lucky. He even found the Empyrean fairy from 1,000 years ago, and made her willingly stay by his side. It's really enviable." He changed the topic. "However, this is a good thing for me. It gives me the opportunity to enter the Divine Gate. Once I crack the secret of the Divine Gate, everything in the world will be completely under my control. I will have the final say in the chess game of the world." The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and his ordinary face revealed a soul-stirring majesty and arrogance. "The Empyrean fairy's strength is profound, and I have to find a way to deal with her. I can't succeed alone, but borrowing strength to fight strength is my strength. 100 changes, Star Master has been silent for too long. It's time to come out and walk." Tang Zheng's peaceful days did not last long. The Yen family had been sending people to investigate in southern Yunnan, and reported as soon as there was any movement. A few days ago, there was finally news. It was said that there was a loud noise in the 100,000 mountains and the mountains were shaking. The official conclusion given by the government was that there was an earthquake in the mountains to appease the people. However, the Yen family consulted several earthquake experts. It was said that the monitoring data was definitely not signs of an earthquake. It was still impossible to conclude what caused the loud noise and the shaking of the mountains. The 100,000 mountains were occupied by the multiform star sovereign. And ever since the multiform star sovereign disappeared from the island nation, there had been no trace of him, which puzzled Tang Zheng. How could he turn a blind eye to the unusual movement this time? Although the 100,000 mountains was a dragon's pool and a tiger's den, he decided to charge in without hesitation. He had an intuition that the 100-form Star Lord, who had been missing for a long time, was probably in the 100,000 mountains. The big commotion this time was probably related to him. Could it be that he was plotting something? No matter what he was doing, Tang Zheng decided to go and investigate, and this trip was extremely dangerous. Marshall and the others took the initiative to volunteer, but Tang Zheng had no choice but to refuse. In the end, he asked the Empyrean Fairy to go with him to the 10,000 Great Mountains. The others had a lot of complaints in their stomachs, but Tang Zheng could only turn a blind eye to them. Not only were there countless demonic beasts running amok in the 100,000 mountains, there was also the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign. If they went, it would instead divert his attention, which would be even more dangerous. Tang Zheng brought the Empyrean Fairy and Xiaobai and took a plane out of the capital, landing in southern Yunnan on the same day. At the exit of the airport, there was a sea of people. Many men and women were gathered at the entrance of the airport, holding banners, photos, and so on. Yo, which celebrity are you seeing? Who says it's not? Don't you see them holding up the photo? The girl in the photo is so beautiful. Tang Zheng heard the discussions of the people nearby, and looked over. Sure enough, he saw a few huge photos. Ling. He was shocked. The person in the photo was actually Tang Linger, and the banner clearly had the words Tang Linger Fan Club written on it. Tang Zheng couldn't help laughing. He hadn't seen Linger for a long time. He knew that she was busy flying around every day, so busy that her feet didn't touch the ground, but he didn't expect to see her fans here. He couldn't help but feel gratified. Linger was simple and honest, which was incompatible with the foul atmosphere of the entertainment circle. However, with his protection, she didn't have to worry about this at all. Suddenly, there was a burst of screams and cheers from the crowd. A group of people walked out. The fans wanted to rush up crazily, but they were stopped by the security guards. What's the matter? Empyrean Fairy asked. She had never seen Linger before. Tang Zheng smiled faintly. I saw an old friend. Linger walked out surrounded by a group of people. Linger waved and smiled at the fans. The fans were so excited that they kept shouting her name. Tang Linger had always been a pure girl. Every frown, every smile, and every movement revealed a sense of freshness, which was completely different from the sexy style of other female celebrities. She gave people a feeling of bathing in the spring breeze. Linger kept smiling and nodding her head. Suddenly, she saw a person in the crowd. Her eyes lit up and she exclaimed, "Master!" Her voice wasn't loud, but the people around her still heard it. A few staff members opened their eyes in suspicion. Master? Could it be that they heard wrong? Only Amy's ears twitched, and she started searching in the crowd. As Linger's manager, he knew that there was only one person in the world who could make Linger so surprised and call him master. Sure enough, he immediately found Tang Zheng in the crowd. Linger's reaction was much faster than his, and she was already running toward Tang Zheng like a gust of wind. Linger's abnormal behavior immediately attracted everyone's attention. Everyone's eyes followed her figure. Bang! Linger threw herself into Tang Zheng's arms, buried her head in his chest, and hugged him tightly. The surprise on her face was indescribable. Everyone was stunned, as if they had been immobilized. Amy slapped her head, frowned, and complained incessantly. Oh no, this is big trouble. Linger has never had any scandals. This time, the whole country knows about it. This is not a good thing. Linger had always been a pure girl. If there were any scandals, it would directly destroy her path to stardom. But Tang Zheng was Amy's boss, so there was nothing he could do. The other staff members didn't know Tang Zheng's identity. They were indignant and wanted to eat him alive. They wanted to stop it, But Amy hurriedly stopped them. Don't get involved. Sister Amy, who is this person? How can you do this? Amy's face was bitter and she said, don't ask about things you shouldn't know. The fans finally reacted as if they had just woken up from a dream. Immediately there was an uproar, and countless cameras recorded this scene. Then these people began to shout and attack Tangjung. Who is this person? How dare you hug my goddess? I'll kill you. Yes, this person is not as handsome as I am. How dare you blaspheme my goddess? Drag him out and beat him. Seeing that he had aroused the anger of the crowd, Tangjung did not know whether to laugh or cry as he patted Ling Er's back and said, all right, just give me a hug. Otherwise, it would be strange if they didn't tear me apart. Ling Er turned a deaf ear to him. She was reluctant to leave his arms and said coquettishly, Master, Ling Er missed you so much. I've been working outside and didn't have time to see you. It's me who didn't see you. I didn't do enough. Master is doing great things. How can you be distracted by Ling Er? It's Ling Er's fault. I didn't share Master's burdens. Ling Er pouted and said, feeling wronged. They dare to scold Master. I'll explain to them. Master is the most important person to Ling Er. They can't scold him. Ling Er was indignant. Tangjung held her hand and said, Ling Er, forget it. They are your fans. They have good intentions. Ling Er hesitated and nodded. Okay, I'll listen to Master. Let's leave here first. Otherwise, I'll be pierced by thousands of arrows. Tangjung joked. Ling Er smiled sweetly and said, Master is so powerful. You won't be afraid of them. Even if there is danger, Ling Er will stand in front of Master to protect Master. Empyrean Fairy had been looking at Ling Er with interest. Seeing her call Tangjung Master, she was slightly surprised but didn't say anything. Seeing that the exit was blocked by the crowd, Ling Er said awkwardly, there are so many people. How are we going to get out? I'm here. Tangjung held Ling Er's hand. His body flashed and the crowd was forced to make a path. Everyone wanted to get closer, but found that they couldn't. Tangjung and Ling Er quickly passed through, and the road was once again filled with people. They all looked around and kept looking around, only to find that Ling Er was still there. Seeing the two disappear, Aimi breathed a sigh of relief. He had heard a little about his boss's abilities and knew how powerful he was. However, he still chased after her, but was stopped by enthusiastic fans and media reporters. Sister Aimi, as Miss Ling Er's manager, can you tell us who that man was? What is his relationship with Miss Ling? Are they a couple? This series of questions gave Aimi a headache. Although Tangjung said that Ling Er was his sister, how could a sister call her brother Master? Moreover, Aimi also found out that Tangjung didn't have a biological sister. This showed that the relationship between the two was very thought-provoking. However, he didn't dare to leak a word or two, so he hurriedly said perfunctorily, This is Miss Ling Er's private matter, so I have no comment. Everyone, please make way and let us pass. Although the crowd didn't give up, they eventually squeezed their way out. In the end, the two sides met in a secluded corner. Aimi looked at Tangjung with mixed feelings, and then subconsciously looked at the mysterious lady of the 9 heavens beside him. Immediately, she couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, and her eyes lit up like an incandescent light bulb. She exclaimed, Boss, the young lady beside you is too beautiful. She completely beats most of the current celebrities. No, she completely beats all of the current celebrities, of course, except for Ling Er. The last sentence was a bit untrue. In terms of beauty and temperament, the Empyrean Fairy definitely beats Ling Er. Ling Er was as pure as a fairy, but the Empyrean Fairy was the most beautiful of all fairies. Naturally, she overshadowed Ling Er. Aimi's heart was in turmoil. She thought that if this lady also entered the entertainment industry, then many of the other female celebrities wouldn't be able to compete. Those famous celebrities who boasted that they could captivate the birds and beasts, outshining the moon and putting the flowers to shame, were instantly outshone and turned into ugly ducklings. Only this one was worthy of being called a phoenix. The Empyrean Fairy had no reaction to Aimi's praise. She was expressionless. Instead, her eyes were constantly sizing up Ling Er. Ling Er was also quietly sizing up the Empyrean Fairy. She was a person transformed from a few hundred-years-old ginseng, so her senses were naturally sharper than others. She clearly felt that the overly beautiful woman beside her master was not simple. Chapter 836. The two women looked at each other with intriguing eyes. Tang Jing didn't want to wait for those crazy fans to catch up, so he quickly said, "Let's get out of here first." Aimi nodded as if waking up from a dream and said, "Yes, let's get out of here first. Our car is over there. Boss this beauty, please." When the others saw Aimi coming over with a few people and personally opening the door for Tang Jing, they all showed a puzzled look. Aimi was usually not so amiable. He was a gold medal agent, and these people had to listen to his orders. If they did something wrong, they would be scolded. But he seemed to be too respectful to this young man. Even a little in awe. Everyone guessed the identity of this person. These staff members actually belonged to Tang Jing's entertainment company, but they had never seen their real boss, so they didn't know him. But after all, they were in the entertainment industry. Some smart people gradually thought of Tang Jing. They seemed to have seen this face somewhere. They searched the internet with their mobile phones. In an instant, they knew that this person was actually the mysterious knight who had a scandal with the Swedish royal princess Anne. Suddenly, these people became more and more gossipy, and looked at Tang Jing with burning eyes. But these people didn't have a chance to be in the same car with Tang Jing. Aimi personally acted as the driver and took the three people to the hotel where they were staying. Linger was very excited as she chattered to him about what she had seen and experienced during this period of time. Tang Jing listened quietly and praised her from time to time, causing her to be overjoyed. Empyrean Fairy and Linger also exchanged names. Although they both felt that each other was not simple, they did not say it in front of Aimi. The motorcade stopped at the entrance of a 5-star hotel in the city center. The hotel's electronic screen showed the words, "Welcome Miss Tang Linger to the hotel." This was the request of the local government of Dianan. This time, Linger was invited to sign a contract as the tourism ambassador of Dianan. Dianan was a tourist attraction. The scenery was beautiful and charming, which was very consistent with Linger's temperament. This was a win-win situation. So the local government attached great importance to it, and sent a high-ranking official to preside over the relevant affairs. This official had a big head and big ears. He directly walked over from the entrance of the hotel, and wanted to hold Linger's hand, but his eyes were fixed on Empyrean Fairy. As for the others, they were completely ignored by him. He was used to being high and mighty. Although these people were very popular in the entertainment industry, they could only greet these parents with a smile. As for Tang Jing and Aimi, they were naturally treated as his followers. He didn't even bother to look at them. "Miss Tang Linger, I'm Long Tingfei, the organizer of this signing ceremony. I'm very happy to meet Miss Tang Linger. Coming to Dianan is like coming home. Don't be polite with me. In Dianan, no matter what you want, I'll do it." Listening to his self-introduction and looking at his fat head and big ears, he was called Long Tingfei. He was like a fat pig. Can he fly? As for his words and deeds, they were very different from the ordinary officials. They were very frivolous. She didn't know who sent him to take charge this time. Of course, Linger still smiled and politely shook hands with him. When she wanted to let go, she found that the other party's hand was firmly grasped, and she couldn't break free. Long Tingfei, however, acted as if nothing had happened. He held Linger's hand, but his eyes were staring straight at Empyrean Fairy. He said with a cheeky smile, "May I ask who this beauty is? She's really beautiful." Empyrean Fairy turned a deaf ear and didn't look at him. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Aimi quickly came up to smooth things over and said, "Director Long, Miss Tang Linger must be tired. Let's go to the room to rest first." Long Tingfei reluctantly let go of his hand. Tang Linger looked unhappy and pouted. She had been in the entertainment circle for so long. Although she had always been in a state of protection, she knew that she would meet many people in this line of work, many things would make her unhappy. However, she was slowly learning to deal with it. For example, this handshake. The other party clearly had bad intentions, but as long as they didn't touch her bottom line, she wouldn't flare up. Tang Jing really wanted to flare up just now. If Aimi hadn't acted according to the situation, Long Tingfei would have been lying on the ground. He didn't hide the disgust on his face. He agreed to let Linger enter the entertainment circle, but it wasn't for this kind of person to take advantage of her. Long Tingfei, also surnamed Long, only one word different from Long Tingyu. Could it be that he is also a member of the Long family in Dianan? Tang Zheng muttered. However, this person was completely different from Long Tingyu's jade tree. He had a fat head and big ears, and was completely like a fat pig. Back then, Long Tingyu was also taken advantage of by me, and even died in the end. You, a fat pig head, dare to have ideas about Linger. You're tired of living. I don't care who you are. Of course, Tang Zheng wasn't a homicidal maniac. He wouldn't really kill Linger just because he shook hands with him. After all, Linger was a public figure, and there were many people who coveted her beauty. If he killed them all, he was afraid that even his war soul sword would be cut open. However, it was not appropriate to cause a ruckus at the entrance of the hotel, and it would have a bad impact on Linger. Thus, the group of people went upstairs. Long Tingfei's eyes would occasionally wander between Tang Linger and Empyrean Fairy, lingering on. The officials of Dianan had arranged a luxurious executive suite for Tang Linger. When the door was opened, Long Tingfei wanted to go in, but he was stopped by Tang Zheng. Seeing that his path was blocked, Long Tingfei raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Get out of the way." Seeing that Tang Zheng was indifferent, the displeasure on Long Tingfei's face grew even stronger, and he said, "Miss Linger, let your staff leave, we still have business to discuss. Can he afford to delay?" Aimi stood awkwardly at the side, wanting to help, but was stopped by Tang Zheng's stern gaze. Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes, looked at Long Tingfei and berated. "Scram, you dare to have ill intentions towards Linger, you must be tired of living." Long Tingfei was stunned for a moment, then flew into a rage. He was indeed a member of the Long family in Dianan, but he was from a side branch. He could be considered Long Tingyu's cousin. He relied on the influence of the Long family in Dianan to rise in the officialdom. Originally, he was not the one in charge of this matter, but when he heard that Tang Linger had come, he snatched this job. Tang Linger's rapid rise to fame naturally attracted his attention. Before, they had no interaction, so even if he had dirty thoughts in his heart, he couldn't implement them. Now Tang Linger had taken the initiative to deliver herself to him, so how could he let her go? He knew a lot about the people and things in the entertainment industry. Many female stars who had come to Dianan had not been able to escape his clutches. This was one of his hobbies. Looking at the usually high and mighty female stars lying under him on TV, he would feel an inexplicable sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. Therefore, he was never tired of it. This time he extended his claws to Tang Linger. However, he never thought that he would have a bad start. Before he even started, he was ruined by a guy who didn't open his eyes. For such people, he thought that he had 100 ways to deal with them. Moreover, in front of beautiful women, especially two of the best beauties, of course, he would not hold back in the slightest. He thought that he was a bastard and roared, "You blind guy, do you want to die? Why don't you ask around? In this Dianan, I Long Tingfei am a man of my word. If anyone dares to challenge me, be careful that I will not let you leave Dianan." He pointed out his power simply and rudely. Not only did he want to intimidate the boy in front of him, but he also wanted to intimidate the two beauties so that they would obediently bow down to his bastard aura and let him do whatever he wanted. Tang Zheng frowned. Originally, he wanted to call him back, but he didn't expect him to be so stubborn. Then he couldn't be blamed. Tang Zheng was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. If something happened to her, then there was no need for this company to exist. Aimi understood and couldn't help but have mixed feelings. Chapter 837. Aimi was reprimanded, but she had no complaints. She recognized the reality and walked out with a gloomy face. She thought that if the cooperation failed, she would just leave Dianan. Only Tang Zheng Linger and the Empyrean Fairy were left in the suite. The two women stared at each other. "You are a demon," the Empyrean Fairy said in a shocking voice. It was not a question, but a statement. Linger was transformed from ginseng, so she was naturally a demon. However, she was simple and honest, which was different from ordinary demons. For example, most of the demons in the 100,000 Mountains were cruel and violent. Linger's eyelids twitched. She was very surprised. How did you know? She subconsciously looked at Tangzheng, thinking that he had told her. Tangzheng was also surprised. With his strength, he could not see through Linger's real identity. The Empyrean fairy was indeed not simple. She could see through her at a glance. Tangzheng shook his head slightly. Linger realized that she had guessed wrong. She was shocked and stared at the Empyrean fairy. Who are you? This was the first time that Linger's real identity had been seen through. How could she not be shocked? Linger, don't be nervous. She is a friend. She is already in the apotheosis realm. That's why she is so powerful. She also has a famous name, the Empyrean fairy. It's good that you know it. 2. Don't tell others. Tangzheng comforted. Since the Empyrean fairy had seen through Linger's real identity, Tangzheng did not hide the Empyrean fairy's real identity from Linger. Empyrean fairy? Linger opened her eyes suspiciously. She tilted her head and thought for a while. She was still at a loss. Obviously, she did not know this name. What is your real identity? The Empyrean fairy asked. Although she could tell that Linger was a demon, she could not see through her true form. Linger was transformed from a 300-year-old ginseng. I met her by chance, Tangzheng said honestly. So it's a small ginseng. The Empyrean fairy suddenly realized. Linger pouted and retorted. I'm not a little ginseng. Linger has already grown up. Tangzheng couldn't help but laugh. He patted Linger's head and comforted her. That's right. Linger has already grown up. We're all together now, so don't be so conflicted. Be happy. Master, what are you doing in Dianan this time? Tangzheng hesitated for a moment and said, something might have happened in the Grand Myriad Mountains. I want to go in and find out. Linger's eyes lit up and she eagerly said, Master, I want to go too. You want to go too? Tangzheng was slightly startled. No, the Grand Myriad Mountains is too dangerous. You can't go. Although Linger was a demon, her cultivation was not high. Linger pouted and said with grievance, Master, the Grand Myriad Mountains is in Dianan. It's not easy to meet them this time. It shows that this is fate. Just let me go. Besides, the tourism ambassador's job is almost done. I just happen to have time. Aren't you very busy? Linger stuck out her tongue. I'm just taking a break from being busy. Master, Linger hasn't gone out to play for a long time. Besides, aren't there many demons in the Grand Myriad Mountains? Linger has never met a demon since she grew up. Seeing her delicate and pitiful appearance, Tangzheng couldn't bear it. Linger hugged his arm and kept shaking it. His arm rubbed against her chest and waves of softness assaulted him. Tangzheng's head shook and he subconsciously looked down. He actually found that her chest was quite large. Linger had really grown up. Okay, I promise you. But you have to be obedient. Otherwise, I won't take you. Tangzheng said seriously with a straight face. He and Linger had been separated for a long time. He could take advantage of this opportunity to stay together for a while. If they really encountered too much danger, he could put Linger into Sumeru world, and there shouldn't be any problems. Linger was like a fairy. She happily jumped up and stood on her tiptoes. With a smack, she kissed Tangzheng's face. Tangzheng suddenly froze and was incomparably embarrassed. Master, did Linger make you unhappy? Seeing him like this, Linger asked helplessly. In the future, you are not allowed to randomly kiss people. Linger happily said. Linger will not randomly kiss people. Linger is not a bad girl. Linger will only kiss Master. Her temperament was similar to that of a child. Tangzheng was secretly ashamed. His thoughts were not pure and he thought too much. The Empyrean fairy stared at the two people, especially Linger's words and actions. She finally believed that this little demon was not like other demons. Then when are we leaving? Linger impatiently asked. Tangzheng looked out the window and found that it was already late. He said, You must be tired. Let's rest for the night and leave early tomorrow morning. Okay. Master, Linger will sleep with you tonight. In the past, when Master slept on the bed, Linger would watch Master sleep from the balcony. I really miss that time. Tang Zheng never thought that Linger could transform into a human. Therefore, during that time, he kept her on the balcony and accompanied her day and night. Now that he heard her say this, he could not help but feel embarrassed. He scratched Linger's straight nose and said, "You are a girl. You can't sleep with a man. Do you remember? But you are master." Linger pouted and said with grievance, "I am also a man. Moreover, I told you before that you should call me big brother. I am your big brother. Don't call me master." Linger will call you big brother when there are many people. When there are no outsiders, Linger still likes to call you master. Master sounds better. Linger looked at him with her big black eyes and cutely said. Tang Zheng shook his head and sighed. There was nothing he could do. Although she was in the entertainment industry, she was still under Tang Zheng's protection. Therefore, she was not contaminated by the evil of the entertainment industry. Her most pure nature was still preserved. It was like a piece of white paper that was just casually drawn with a few lines. Because Linger's identity was special, it was not suitable for her to eat in the restaurant to avoid being surrounded. Therefore, the food was directly sent to the room. The other staff members went to eat in the restaurant. Suddenly, only the three of them were left in the room. Bang, bang, bang. A series of rapid banging on the door sounded. The door creaked as if it was about to fall apart. Tang Zheng frowned and said, "You guys continue eating. I will go take a look." Hearing that the other party was done, Tang Zheng walked to the door and opened it. "Arrest him." As soon as the door opened, a group of fierce-looking people rushed in. Tang Zheng was the first to bear the brunt. He saw a pair of handcuffs snap and cuff his hands. He was slightly startled. The person who came was actually a policeman. His hands were not bad. He actually handcuffed Tang Zheng as soon as he made a move. "Get down and behave." The policeman kicked and directly greeted Tang Zheng's stomach. Tang Zheng finally woke up as if he had just woken up from a dream. He pulled his hands outwards and with a kacha sound, the handcuffs broke into pieces and fell to the ground. The policeman who kicked him flew backwards and crashed into his colleague, crying out in pain. The others could not help but be stunned. "You were sent by Long Tingfei?" Tang Zheng immediately reacted. In Dianan, the only person who dared to cause trouble for them so recklessly was probably that Long Tingfei. Hearing this, the policeman did not stop. Instead, he roared even more fiercely. "You dare to offend Director Long? Don't you know that Director Long is a member of the Long family in Dianan? You dare to be arrogant in Dianan? Why don't you ask around? So what if you're a star? You still have to obediently listen to Director Long." It turns out that the pighead is really a member of the Long family in Dianan. Except for Sister Mu and Nana, who are the other people in the Long family. Long Xianyuan has no idea how to manage his family and bring disaster to his neighbors. This Long family is jackals of the same tribe as the Song family. Seeing Tang Zheng muttering to himself, he did not hear clearly what he was saying. The police became more and more arrogant, thinking that with the support of the Long family, it would be easy to deal with a few outsiders. However, the young man in front of him was a tough guy. He actually had a few skills, but no matter how powerful he was, could he be more powerful than a gun? So several people pulled out their guns and pointed at Tang Zheng. They shouted angrily, "Don't move, or your head will explode." Linger and the Empyrean fairy were sitting in the room and eating. Seeing this scene, they were indifferent and still ate unhurriedly. In fact, Linger wanted to help, but was stopped by the Empyrean fairy with her eyes. If they were to take action for such a small disturbance, they would look down on Tang Zheng too much. But Ai Mi walked out of the elevator with a group of staff, and happened to see this scene. Many people were scared out of their wits. Many smart people have already thought that this must be the result of angering Long Tingfei. Could it be that they couldn't even leave the boundary of Dianan? It actually came to the point of using guns. Although Ai Mi knew that Tang Zheng was the champion of the National Martial Arts Conference, seeing him being pointed at by a gun at close range, her heart still trembled. She quickly greeted him and said, "What are you doing? We are guests of the Dianan government. You treat us like this, we want to complain and protest." The police looked at Ai Mi with disdain and said, "If you dare to offend Master Long, it's useless even if you complain and protest to the capital. Brat, I'm telling you, obediently surrender, or else you'll have to suffer. Tang Zheng looked over the heads of the crowd, towards the direction of the stairs, and said, Tell that fat pig to get out. Is it fun to sneak behind and watch the show? The Long family is going downhill more and more. Without Long Tingyu, the others are not willing to fall behind and do such a thing. Brat, I'm going to kill you. Long Tingfei heard and rushed out, followed by a few followers. These people were much more powerful than the police. They were actually martial artists, and there were even pre-celestial stage martial artists among them. Tang Zheng sneered. What a big show. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been taken care of by the people brought by Long Tingfei. Unfortunately, he had met him. This kind of person had already harmed countless people. Moreover, if he hadn't met him, who knew how many people he would have harmed in the future? If this kind of person was left behind, it would be a disaster. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't know what was good for him and kept forcing him, Tang Zheng might have let him go for Nanan's sake. He could only blame the other party for being reckless. Chapter 838. Hearing Long Tingfei's angry roar, many people were so scared that they kept quiet out of fear. Especially when they saw the black muzzle of the gun. Their hearts trembled and their bodies went weak. Even Aimi was at a loss of what to do. Although Tang Zheng's skills were extraordinary, was he a match for guns? Tang Zheng quickly gave the answer. The guns flew into his hands on full auto, and the police opened their mouths so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in them. Tang Zheng rubbed his hands together, and all the guns were kneaded together in a strange shape, turning into a big iron ball. Bang! The sound of the metal ball landing on the ground was like a clap of thunder exploding in everyone's mind. Was this still the power of a human? All the policemen's faces had turned ashen, and they were scared out of their wits. When Tang Zheng's eyes swept over them, they were scared out of their wits. Some of them even fell on their butts. Long Tingfei was also shocked. Although he was from the side branch of the Long family and had the opportunity to cultivate martial arts since he was young, he was lazy by nature. How could he be willing to suffer such hardships? Therefore, he didn't even know any martial arts. However, this did not hinder his knowledge. He was born in the Long family, so he naturally knew the strength of the warriors better than anyone else. When he saw Tang Zheng reveal this move, his expression changed greatly, and he said while trembling with fear, You are martial artist? Tang Zheng coldly snorted and could not be bothered with him. He grabbed with his hand and used the heaven-swallowing technique. Long Tingfei involuntarily flew towards Tang Zheng and landed in Tang Zheng's palm. Ah! Long Tingfei's blood-curdling screams were deafening. This pig is so annoying. It's disturbing my rest. Tang Zheng scolded impatiently. He tapped on Long Tingfei's body, and he couldn't move at all. He could only stare at Tang Zheng in panic. When the others saw this strange scene, even the pre-celestial martial artists didn't have time to make a move before Long Tingfei was controlled. Everyone was shocked. Not only were they shocked by Tang Zheng's audacity, they were even more shocked by his strength. The few warriors looked at each other. They knew that if they did not do anything, they would not be able to report back. Thus they all braced themselves and attacked Tang Zheng, shouting, Put him down! Tang Zheng glanced at the crowd indifferently. With a flick of his finger, a gust of wind blew, and the few people's bodies suddenly stiffened. They all fell to the ground, unable to move even a single step forward. They thought that even if of Tang Zheng's skills, they would still have the strength to fight with so many of their own. However, things were contrary to their wishes. Of Long, of a mantis, a chariot. Tang Zheng did not kill them. He only temporarily made them lose their fighting strength. He coldly glanced at them and said, Go back and tell Long Xianyuan that the Dianan Long family has not taught their people well, and allowed their people to run amok. I will clean up the house for him. If there is anything, feel free to find me. Tang Zheng was resolute and decisive, causing everyone's expression to change greatly. In the land of Dianan, he dared to directly challenge Long Xianyuan. Could it be that he was stupid? Otherwise, how could a normal person have such ambition and courage? Tang Zheng did not care about their thoughts, and continued to speak. I will not change my name, and will not change my surname. Just tell Long Xianyuan that Tang Zheng helped him clean up the sect. With that, with a crisp crack, Long Tingfei's neck was broken, and he fell to the ground like a dead pig. Screams rose and fell, not only from the martial artists, but also from the police, as well as AI Me and the others. To personally kill someone in front of the police, this was definitely a huge courage. Could it be that he was not afraid of the police? Of course, Tang Zheng was not afraid. Just now, he had used the soul-searching technique to discover Long Tingyu's misdeeds. This person was lecherous and looked like a fat pig. Relying on the power in his hands, not only did he run amok in the unit, no one dared to provoke him, he even insulted his own colleagues. In the end, his colleague's husband came to him, and even reported him to the disciplinary department. However, he used his own power to directly and quietly kill this couple, and the report also came to nothing. In addition, he used various methods to forcefully occupy many women. In short, his crimes were too numerous to be recorded, and even death could not wipe out his crimes. How could Tang Zheng let him go? If he let him go, with his identity and methods, he would not be punished at all. Then today he would be a judge and directly give him the punishment he deserved. Aime's colleague stared at Tang Zheng in horror, trembling in fear. Thinking back to how he had complained about Tang Zheng behind his back and said bad things about him, he couldn't help but feel a chill on his neck. Would he also be killed by him? As for those martial artists, after screaming, they could not hide the panic on their faces. This was a fear that was engraved in their bones. This was because the name Tang Zheng was like thunder to them. It was like a nightmare that had been lingering in their hearts for countless days. If Long Tingfei had asked for Tang Zheng's name from the beginning, when he heard these two words, he might not have been so reckless and arrogant. This was because everyone in the Long family knew that Long Tingyu's death was related to Tang Zheng. Even the Song and Chu families that had just been destroyed in the capital were related to him. This person was too powerful. With the current strength of the Long family, wanting to contend against him was no different from an egg striking a stone. Therefore, even though Long Xianyuan knew that his son's death was related to Tang Zheng, he could do nothing about it. Take this dead pig and scram. Tang Zheng berated. As if they had been pardoned, these martial artists carried Long Tingfei's corpse and disappeared along the stairs without looking back. They didn't even take the elevator. Tang Zheng's gaze turned and landed on the policeman. Immediately, they felt as if they had gone from the dog days of June to the dead of winter, and their entire bodies were emitting cold air. You are the people's police. You should protect the people, not help the tyrant and protect these nobles. Go take care of yourself. After Tang Zheng reprimanded them, these people did not dare to refute. They watched Tang Zheng's actions with their own eyes. They had already realized that this youth in front of them was an existence even more powerful than the Long family, and was someone they did not dare to provoke. Thus, he quickly got up and left dejectedly. As for Me and the others, they looked at Tang Zheng from afar. They did not dare to approach him, nor did they dare to leave. Some of the timid girls were already sitting on the ground in fear. Their expressions were even uglier than crying. Tang Zheng turned his head to look. He knew that this incident had shocked them quite a bit. However, they all often followed Ling Er's team. Sometimes, it was necessary to frighten them and let them understand some things. It's okay, you all go back and rest. I'll give you all a holiday for the next few days. You can play in Dianan or go to other places to play. Tang Zheng said lightly. Holiday? Everyone was confused. How can you say that you can take a holiday? But no one dared to refute. In the end, it was Me who resisted the fear in her heart and nodded. Yes, you all should also rest early. Seeing Tang Zheng close the door, everyone immediately began to talk about it. Sister Me, who is this person? What is his relationship with Ling? That's right, what qualifications does he have to give us a holiday? This time, things have become so big and people have died. Let's hurry up and report to the company. Otherwise, there will be a big mess. These people who mingled in the entertainment industry could be considered experienced and knowledgeable people, but everything that happened tonight still taught them an important lesson. Me recovered her spirit and sternly scolded. Don't cause trouble. If he says it's a holiday, then it's a holiday. Why? Because he is the boss. Aimi finally couldn't help but reveal Tang Zheng's true identity. Otherwise, these people would definitely ask endlessly. A boss. Everyone was shocked. Although there were occasional rumors that the real boss of the company was not Mu Hongyan, but someone else, they didn't expect him to be so young. This was the real overbearing president, decisive and decisive. The few girls who were scared to death just now immediately had stars in their eyes. However, some people were happy while others were sad. When Long Tingfei's body was transported back to the Long family, the huge Long family was shaken. The Long family did not only have Long Xuanyuan's family, but also many side branches. Long Tingfei's death caused all the side branches to gather at the Long family. They were aggressive and wanted Long Xianyuan to come forward and seek justice for Long Tingfei. When Long Xianyuan heard what happened and knew that it was Tang Zheng who did it, his mood instantly fell to the bottom. He was not angry. He had heard a little about Long Tingfei's usual actions, but there were many children of aristocratic families, and there were many good and bad children. Moreover, it was just a side branch child, so he didn't take it to heart. He didn't expect that this time he would kick an iron plate, Tang Zheng. This was the thing that gave him a headache. As for Long Tingfei's death, whether it was early or late, Long Xianyuan didn't care. Long Xianyuan was thinking, was this Tang Zheng deliberately coming to Dianan to stir up trouble for the Long family? Or was it really a coincidence? A coincidence? He snorted disdainfully, as he did not believe in coincidences. He believed that everyone's words and actions had a deep meaning and purpose, especially people like Tang Zheng. Moreover, Tang Zheng had just destroyed the Song and Chu families, and was in high spirits. It was not ruled out that he wanted to strike while the iron was hot, and clean up the Long family together. After all, both sides had long cherished wishes. Thinking of this, Long Xianyuan couldn't sit still. Things were different now, and being remembered by Tang Zheng was not a good thing. Seeing a group of people chattering nonstop, wanting him to seek justice, he couldn't help but feel angry. With a bang, his palm slammed on the table, and the sound was like a thunderclap, causing everyone's ears to rumble. Justice? What kind of justice do you want? Don't you know what Tingfei did on a daily basis? Have you elders ever said a single word about him? Now that he's dead, you want justice? Hearing Long Xuanyuan's question, everyone immediately stopped and looked at him in horror. They didn't know why he was so angry at his own people. Everyone was silent. Long Xianyuan took a deep breath and said, "You keep saying that you want to take revenge. That Tang Zheng is in the hotel. Do you want to go by yourselves?" You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.